Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2018 year-end Avocado GamesCast Extravaganza. It's been an interesting year in the world of gaming, and we're going to talk about as much of it as we can. The highs, the lows, and the in-betweens. My name's Merve, and joining me, he's just a city boy, born and raised in South Detroit. It's Science is Bad.
I'm actually the Become Detroit in Detroit Become Human. It's me.
You're the human?
Character.
You're the human. Okay.
I'm the Become Human. Yes.
And also joining us, he ain't no holla back girl. It's Otakunomike.
Howdy, y'all.
And
I don't
finally,
know any other
he's
Gwen
easy
Stefani
come,
songs.
easy go, little high, little low. It's the Kappa.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So how are you folks doing?
Good, man.
Good, yeah.
Ready to talk about...
back up after some snow, and yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, there's
It's
snow where
Christmas
you are.
film. It's holiday season, and when this podcast comes out, it's probably after New Year's, maybe something like that.
Don't put that pressure on me.
We'll try to get it up early. Who knows when it'll come out?
After New Year's can be March.
It might be Valentine's Day. It might be April Fool's.
Get it when you get it. What's the old saying? It'll be out when it's done.
Yeah, I think we'll get it out before Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So you can listen to it with your lover.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a romantic experience after all.
It is.
So we've got a lot of ground to cover today. Here's the game plan. First, the four of us are going to discuss some of the most significant events in the games industry this year. Then we're going to throw it on over to the Avocado community to talk about their favorite games of the year. And then, through the magic of editing, we're going to return and discuss the best, worst, and most surprising games of 2018. So you guys ready to dive in?
Yep.
Yeah. Go for it.
All right. So let's hop in our time machine and go back to March, when news broke that Vivendi finally gave up trying to acquire Ubisoft. And they've been trying to do this for several years, right? They've been trying to buy out Ubisoft.
Well, Vivendi seems to always have an interest in gaming space, because they were a big part of Blizzard way back in the day,
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like it's like a market they always want to play in, but when they get into it, they kind of realize that, I don't know, I'm not enough of a business guy to tell you about whether it's a margin thing or whatever thing, but it seems like this is the third or fourth time they've threatened to buy out Ubisoft, right? Like, this is probably their most recent, but this has happened before with them, right? I can't remember. Either way.
Yeah, no, they tried many times. They've tried a hostile takeover a lot, and then Ubisoft sought outside financing to fend off the acquisition, and they've been doing this for years, because I don't think Yves Guillemot wants to give up Ubisoft.
No, and I don't think you should. I think they're making some really good transitions. Whenever we talk about games that have kind of had a resurgence, I mean, it's a lot of their games that we are going to talk about. You know what I mean? Like, they've been hitting the mark, I think, lately. I want them to still exist. And I feel like as soon as you get bought out, it all becomes about one thing, and that's the money, and the money right now is in microtransactions. It's in games as services. It's in apps and, all the other stuff. So more slightly independent companies, the better, I think.
Yeah.
So I pulled up Vivendi's Wikipedia page just to see what they do all own. And it looks like, they own a lot of mobile gaming companies and a lot of those microtransaction companies.
Yep.
And it looks like in October 2015, they bought minority ownership in Ubisoft. And by June 2016, we're trying a hostile takeover. So, they've been at this 2.5 years now of trying to get majority ownership in Ubisoft.
And it's frustrating for everybody, I'm sure, when you're like developers or when you're people working there to have to, worry about your jobs and worry about stuff like that. So, I mean, it's good to hear that hopefully they finally really gave up for good this time.
Yeah, I don't think that Ubisoft really was looking to be bought out, and I don't think the whole Actiblizz merger with Vivendi was ever a partnership that Activision really liked. I get the sense that they're kind of a very predatory company, just looking at their their history of acquisitions.
Oh yeah, like I said, they're there to make money. I mean, and you guys know my stance on it. It's an industry; you still have to make money. You can't just say, "Oh, whatever." We'll just let the games speak for themselves anymore. Not when you're making, $150 million games or whatever. You gotta have some kind of business sense, or you end up with a lot of stuff like, Molino. Just like, I'll just make a game forever and never release it, or release it and it's all broken or whatever. So
that's like the Star Citizen model. You can still get people to pay you.
They made the most they've made since the Kickstarter this year. People are still buying into that. It's crazy to me. Like, there's a lot of space games out there that you don't have to pay $1,200 to fly a ship in. It's just bizarre to me that makes as much money as it does.
Well, I mean, the one thing with Ubisoft is they're such a didactic company. When they try to make really big games, they tend to fall on their face more often than not. But when they go really indie micro, you get stuff like Child of Light, which is actually a really good game for the most part. So, in a way, almost a takeover, not necessarily a hostile takeover, but a shake up there to refocus on their indie core would actually maybe help Ubisoft almost.
Yeah, and I think they can tend to fall into a rut with their games. Remember how the joke was is the game's gonna have a tower to climb, and it all the games started to feel samey.
Yo, they put fucking towers in The Crew.
Yeah, and then I think just in the past few years we've been seeing a real breakaway by them in terms of what Assassin's Creed has become, what Far Cry has become. I think we're starting to see some distinguishment in the products. Rainbow Six Siege is still out there doing well. For Honor, people are loving For Honor all of a sudden. Like, all my friends are playing For Honor.
Yeah, all those towers in For Honor that you gotta play. It's great.
So I mean, I think I think they're making that turn, and it's good to hear that they're doing it while not being a part of somebody else who's going to be looking to make a ton of money.
Now, don't get my hopes up for the new Heroes of Might and Magic, because the last two Ubisoft editions have been terrible. Well, the last one was terrible. The previous ones were.
I don't think they can do it justice. Like 3DO was the only company.
A lot of that's nostalgia too, though. I went back and played 3, and let me tell you,
no, it's still good.
I played Heroes 3 just 2 years ago, and it's still a great game.
It's all right. There's a lot of weird mechanics.
It has issues, but it's still good.
It's kind of boring. It's kind of boring.
That's what I would say. There's a lot of turns where you're just sitting there clicking next turn, waiting for the Hydras to be born or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, Civilization does the same thing, where you just got to grind through some of those turns.
Civilization also has some problems, I'm gonna say, but it's Ubisoft is definitely getting a little bit more creative with its formulas for games, and not just copy paste.
Yeah, and then from Ubisoft we go to Valve, right? The other big news from Valve was them buying
Campo
Santa. Yeah.
Yeah. So Campo Santo were the folks that made the fairly well-received Firewatch, and they're working on another game right now called In the Valley of the Gods. Mm-hmm. They were, a pretty fiercely independent developer, and it's really weird to see them just get bought out by Valve. Although apparently they welcomed the cash injection.
Yeah.
Sure, but I don't. Valve is not really making games lately, especially not
Artifact, and I don't know if I've seen a more negative reaction to a game, at least from the people who I've seen play it in a while. I think it's going to be interesting to see where that game goes in a couple of years, if Valve can kind of make it come around to what they want it to be. But yeah,
so it hasn't. The reception hasn't been so bad. It's just when it was first announced, people really were not happy about Artifact. But since then, people are like, yeah, it's a decent enough game, but it doesn't have the player base, I think, for long-term sustainability.
Well, I know a couple of people who try to get into it, some hardcore Hearthstone-y type friends of mine who are into it. And one of the main things they say is, you have to buy the packs. You have to keep buying the whatchamacallit packs to keep it going. Yeah, the boosters. And
no, the whatchamacallit packs, I think they call it.
It's very right. It's very much like Magic, which makes sense. It was made by the guy who design Magic the Gathering. So a lot of what I've been hearing is it's very hard unless you want to play in like what are they called, the tournaments, like random draw tournaments kind of things where you just get whatever cards. But if you're looking to really get into the deck building part of it and competitive scene, there's a lot of money to be spent in it, and it's a confusing game. You can win 2 out of 3 of the lanes, they call it, and then lose the game. You can there's a lot more going on than just having the best deck and playing it smartly. There's a lot of luck and stuff that people I know who are into card games just are kind of rejecting the game from. But it'll be because I think a lot of the Valve games that they've put out, they've kind of weirdly just put out there and they just sat there. You know what I mean? Like
Valve is not.
You don't see a lot of like, weekly, monthly stuff being updated in stuff outside of Dota 2, and even that kind of has
or Team Fortress 2 hats.
yeah. But
people are still playing TF2.
Yeah.
But all that being said,
Overwatch by now or Fortnite.
But all that being said, these are all like multiplayer games, focused games. It's totally different than like makers of like Campo Santo is like making these very personal single player stories that like totally don't fit what Valve is going for. Maybe they want to just kind of expand and go back to designing single player games, but they're making so much money. I don't see how.
And famously, the thing at Valve too has always been you work on what you want to work on, right? I mean, isn't that like their whole business model? Yeah.
But I bet there are a lot of people at Valve that sure wanted to make like single player games and we're stuck making skins for Dota.
Yeah, maybe that's what it's for. But I mean, I think long term it's going to be interesting to see what Campo Santo is putting out after Valley of the Gods, because Valley of the Gods was announced a long time before their acquisition, but. If they start working on some kind of weird, MOBA hybrid, I'm going to know who won out in that argument. But if they keep it, kind of charming indie type things, yeah.
My one qualm with Valve buying Campo Santo related to Artifact is Artifact showed Valve has no idea how to actually announce a release. That was just a bundled announcement of PR mess. And I mean, the game itself might be fine, but part of its user problem could be just the fact that they don't know how to get the word out right and sell it right, which doesn't sound good if you're a collectible card game or if you're a single player game if you can't get the word out.
But I don't remember like Hearthstone having like a huge release. It just kind of
had
like,
a negative release at first, and then people started to really love it. Here's the thing. I'd say if we're kind of looking at one defining story of the year, I think it's the year a lot of devs burned a lot of or the last amount of their goodwill with people. You know what I mean? Like I think we'll kind of get in some of those stories as we go, but I think Valve, at least for me, it's the most disappointed I've been with Valve in a while has been these past couple of years. And you guys know I've been growing really, really kind of jaded with Steam as a development, not just a development platform, but as a distribution platform. And I think everybody else is starting to too. I think that's why you're seeing Epic Games Launcher. I think that's why you're seeing, a lot of these other.
Yeah, Discord has a store now as well.
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen. Like, yeah, I'm glad that there's some competition, but Valve is like just a monolith. Like, there's no way there's anyone.
I think you can say that now, but if Blizzard games aren't going there, EA games aren't going there, Ubisoft games aren't going there, Epic games aren't going there, Nintendo games aren't going there.
Yeah, but I really thought that like EA really wanted to go there, and then saw that things weren't going well with their shop. So they were like, nah, okay, we're just going to host our own games here and not sell every other game because we don't want to compete with Steam. That's we tried for a while and then it didn't pan out. So no, I think Good Old Games, I think it's the only like thing that I hear people are buying games except for Steam.
I use Origin Uplay. They're fine. They're fine enough.
They're fine, but like they don't seem to chase. They chased for a while the same clientele, but then they were like, no.
Well, EA just straight up doesn't sell their games on Steam anymore, you know? And
Yeah.
neither does-
That
mean,
was their big move. Like they started with that. Like said,
But
like
as more and more companies do that, what I'm saying is like it might be out of Valve's hands, you know?
yeah,
like,
but I don't want like 10,000 platforms for my.
Oh,
video.
that ship sailed. It's here already. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, I guess Uplay is kind of integrated with Steam on some level, and I just don't buy EA games anymore because, like, mostly because I just don't want to screw with their platform. Like, they just kind of like made me
honestly, Origin is like a stabler piece of software.
It's
Steam.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I'm not criticizing the platform. It's pretty good, but like you have so much people that are already invested in Steam. Like what are they going to do with these games on their accounts? Like I have almost 600 games.
The account's not going anywhere. The games are still there. And I mean, I would put my Steam library up against probably everybody else's in the world. I own a lot of games on Steam, but that I don't feel the loyalty to Valve that I did 5-10 years ago. And I think that's kind of what I'm getting at is I think people are saying that with Blizzard. People are saying that with lots and lots of companies these days, that it used to be no one's ever going to say that about this company. And I think we're starting to see a lot of people just like, nah, I don't have a loyalty to this company. If they're not going to keep me satisfied, I will go buy other games.
I think keeping loyalty to any company ever is a bad idea.
Oh, yeah.
Straight up.
I mean, for me, it's been a little bit strange because as I've gotten more into console gaming, I've kind of left Steam behind largely. So I can't tell if it's because I've moved more towards console gaming because I was getting into console gaming anyway, or if it was because my frustrations with Steam kind of pushed me to play my PlayStation and my Switch more often.
And it's interesting to hear you say that too, because I know you're such a fan of indie stuff, you know, and I feel like if you were an indie gamer right now, it would be so easy to move past Steam because of what Good Old Games is doing, what Humble is doing, what...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's so many other outlets right now for indie games, and even like EA's, you know, publishing cool indie games. Uplay is like, they're indie games right now. If you're an indie gamer, this is your golden age. I mean, it's everywhere.
Let me put it this way:
there were on consoles.
Yeah, there were indie games that I could have bought on Steam this year that I just chose to buy for Switch instead.
Yeah, that's
I mean, like I can't play Steam in bed. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I guess you could if you just like
Steam Link and
Depends on how dedicated your setup is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I guess that's just my thing. Like I don't want to be super negative on them. I just hope that they start to look at the writing on the wall and really revamp the customer experience for one. I mean, that's what I'm most concerned about.
Yeah, but what does frustrate you about Steam the most?
Well, number one, the return policy. I'm hooked on the way EA does it, which is you either like the game or we take it back. There's no 24 hours. There's no you can't play the game for this long. You can't have because like a lot of times some of those games, if you redeem the weird like pre-order things, you can't return the game. The automated nature of that return system to me is really frustrating. The other thing I've been having problems with Steam lately is they've been trying to do all this crazy thing with the chat program and stuff. I don't want all that in a chat program. I just want to send a message to my friends 95% of the time. I don't need to see what they've been playing, how many hours, their achievements and stuff. It almost feels like they're trying to like become Facebook for gaming in a weird way. And I feel like it's getting kind of intrusive in a way.
I actually like those features. The problem is that I think about
collusion.
10% of the time they don't work properly. So you end up with say not being able to see some of your friends when they're logged in, or sometimes your photos that you've uploaded won't load properly. Sometimes the videos won't load properly. It's just not a stable enough client.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Even when I use it to join friends in a game, I feel like I should be able to do that through Steam, and a lot of times I'll join in, it'll say we're in a party, but then we're not actually in the same game, or we're like, you know, the game won't load up. There's a lot of weird stuff that I feel like.
Yeah, I agree that the client is way outdated.
And that's what I'm saying. I think if they start to feel a little more pressure and people saying, fine, I'm just going to go to this client, you know, but people are so adamantly against some of the other clients for, I don't think a lot of good reasons other than, I totally get that I don't want a ton of programs. That part I get, but I guess what I'm saying is, if Steam starts to feel that pressure, then they start making those upgrades that have been due for a long time.
They did try something
I'm
new
just
with the big picture mode.
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
while.
I'm just
but
not confident that Steam is actually going to feel that pressure. I mean, I don't window shop on Steam anymore. Like, I don't make impulse purchases on Steam. I'll buy stuff on Steam, but it's stuff that I've known that I've wanted for a while. So they've lost that part of their business, but beyond
it's going to make a lot of people mad, I guess. But I'm more into, like, I don't know, like the gray market of like Green Man Gaming and stuff like that, where I buy a game and then wherever the key comes from, that's where the key comes from. But if I got a good deal, I'm good with it. You know what I mean? If I buy Assassin's Creed Odyssey for 20% off at release, and it's the Uplay key, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, but then I don't know. Green Man Gaming is just such a weird, sketchy site. I don't like it.
It is, but I mean, it's 20% off. It's hard for me to argue.
I did buy like weird keys online years ago, but then I was like, nah.
I only buy through Green Man if it says that the key came from the publisher.
Yeah, and a lot of them do now. They've started to hear that feedback, so they've started to post on there right now. It just says, like, this is a publisher key. You'll get it out. But I think the other thing you're seeing is that's where good old games came from in CD Projekt Red. They were a gray market vendor for forever in whatever country they're from. I can't remember now, but Poland, yeah. I mean,
no, I don't think it's Poland. I think it's Austria.
But they used to just basically sell like burn CDs and game versions from games and stuff like that. But I guess regardless, I think my main point here is that at some point, Steam hopefully makes the changes it needs to be to really deserve the industry leader spot that they have, and not feel like we're too big to fail or we're a monopoly or everybody's going to use this just because they like us, because I think that'd be a lesson in hubris that lots and lots of companies can tell you. Like here's one example. How long has Steam been trying to push Linux? I don't even on PC gaming. It's never really taken off, right?
Oh, they've more or less given up.
Yeah, and you started to see that with the Steam OS and the Steam machines and stuff like that. And it was like one more Hail Mary. It's wasted money. Their own survey data says that 97% of people play on Windows OS. 97%. That why would you try to create all this for a 3% of people that, it's just weird to me. But it's like you kind of get that vendetta going, and you're convinced that you're going to be the one who finally kills off Microsoft, and I don't even know if people.
It wasn't so much about killing off Microsoft as it was kind of an overreaction to UWP,
right?
And the idea that UWP would replace executables, which
but
Microsoft
never. Yeah,
really not shown interest in doing.
Absolutely, yeah. Microsoft's own store is a mess. I mean, I think
Oh God, yeah. If we want to talk about a messy platform, Microsoft Store is just like a horrid wasteland. Yeah,
but like garbage. To the point of why this happened, it was Microsoft is not going to get rid of EXE support because it's so crucial for enterprise applications.
Oh yeah,
which is where Microsoft is like Windows is most widely used, that if they were to get rid of executable support, then they would lose all their corporate clientele. They would slash their revenue by like 80%. It's
almost the definition of like an unfounded fear, or like something that just But you would expect a company like Valve not to react to that and be like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. Instead, they went all in.
I don't think they had the fear. I think they wanted to like capitalize on the fear of people that were like,
maybe that's a good point. Right. Yeah. All right, so from Valve to Cliffy B, huh?
Yeah, so you're mentioning people who had squandered their goodwill.
Yeah.
And
oh boy, yeah.
Yeah, Cliffy B's new studio, Bosky Productions, shut down this year in May. So last year, I believe they released this multiplayer shooter called Lawbreakers.
Oh boy!
It was,
and 2 people played it.
So here's
and
the,
one
here's
of
the thing.
them was Cliffy B.
It was well received. It got good reviews, but nobody was interested in playing it.
Yeah,
and it flopped. So they came out with a second game this year in early access called Radical Heights. It was a battle royale game with like some 80s neon pastiche theme. I'm not really sure what was going on there.
Definition of a force this out the door for a money grab type game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was because they needed the cash injection and they just didn't get it.
They were really desperate.
No, to give an illustration of just how desperate they were, when they released it, they had a placeholder. They were supposed to have launched with both male and female characters. When they launched it, there's a placeholder saying female character models coming soon, which tells you how early in early access they were. Yeah. So yeah,
that was just horrible. I saw that and I was like, yeah, this company will be like shutting down in a couple of months, and I was
I mean, it's here's the thing about that whole. I mean, just to get a little bit into that battle royale, streamers now dictate everything to us, but that's what it felt like. It felt like they were looking out there just trying to get some kind of interest into any of their games, and thought that this would be an entrance because so many streamers were out there playing battle royales. So they, popped it out the door to get a battle royale out, and it was nothing but a blatant cash grab. But I mean, I don't know, like. I don't dislike Cliffy B. I just dislike the way he talks and thinks about gamers. It feels archaic to me. It feels like how
90s.
Yeah, very 90s. Like, they want to fast frag each other in an arena deathmatch and like
and eat Cheetos and drink Mountain Dew.
He got to start with Unreal. It looks like he just has never really moved on.
Right.
Unreal.
No, wait. They want to eat Doritos. Sorry.
He's going to start with, like, Jazz Jackrabbit.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
In all the advertising, though, it was about how hardcore it is, how tough it is, how you're going to get killed, and, he's going to make you his bitch to, steal that old phrase. You know what I mean? But, like, that's what it...
That's John Romero.
That's a John Romero.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's the kind of advertising he was going
Yeah, I get
you know what I mean?
Shock advertising, like, hardcore.
Exactly, and that feels so old to me when right now, even when you're putting out, like, shooters, like, you're showing people all the co-op modes, all the battle royale modes, all the way they can play with their friends and do this and do that. Like, what are the best shooters at now? Like Overwatch? Hell, that's a cooperative, in a way, game. There's very few one-on-one.
Like Fortnite, right?
Yeah.
Fortnite is, like, loud and colorful and friendly.
Yeah,
I still can't believe Fortnite is a thing. I still can't believe it. I was blown away. I thought, like, Player Unknown Battlegrounds, like PUBG, I thought, like, yeah, sure, it's going to be popular, and then it's going to influence other games. But like, Fortnite appeared, and I was like, yeah, it's a ripoff. It's going to be popular for a little while, and then it's going to die down. And then it exploded, and I was like, what the hell is going on?
Fortnite came before PUBG, but it didn't have the Battle Royale mode.
Yeah.
And they added the Battle Royale mode as sort of a free update, and then it exploded
I
in
still
popularity.
think it's the children that are wrong. I'm with it. I'm still against Fortnite.
So I guess that's
children
my thing about...
love it, though.
Yeah. I know. That's
one
exactly
of my colleagues was telling me about how her son is just like addicted to Fortnite, and that's why he's failing high school.
I can't get my kid to stop doing Fortnite dances. I literally like at the store in line, buying groceries. It's Fortnite dances.
And if I clicked on YouTube Rewind, and that was my mistake. But that was just like chock full of Fortnite references.
100%.
Like, oh my god, I feel like a 1,000-year-old man.
So I guess for Cliffy B, though, this was kind of a wake-up that gaming's kind of moved on, right? I mean, in a way. Like, you can't just... that 90s arena shooter, it might have a niche audience, but you can't bank a company on that kind of game anymore,
It's just what people
part
want.
of it you can't really blame on him, though, because he had Gears of War at the, when did that come out? 10 years ago now? And that was a huge trilogy, so that probably reinforces notions of the 90s era stuff leading to this.
And he also burnt a lot of bridges on his way out, right? Like, I think not making... All his fans are on Xbox, right, for the most part. And then I don't think Lawbreakers ever had a console release, right?
I think it was on... Wait, hold on. I think it was on PS4. Let me check.
PS4 and Microsoft Windows.
Okay.
So, like, where's your fan base? They're all on Xbox. Like, why would you do that? I guess you want to defy the company that made you, and sure, but, man, that's where your fans are. That's a boneheaded mistake,
I think it's more like Epic was feuding with Microsoft, and he kind of still had his loyalty to Epic, but I don't know. It's hard to tell what he was thinking. This was also around the time when everybody was kind of piling on Microsoft for, like, let's face it, Don Matrick was an awful salesman for the Xbox brand.
Yeah.
And so everybody just kind of was rebelling.
What a difference a year's made, though. I mean, geez, if he would have...
It wasn't just getting rid of Don Matrick was the key and replacing him with Phil Spencer. If they still had Don Matrick at the helm, trust me, people would not be thinking positively about Xbox these days. I can see why Cliffy B kind of did it, but also he has a tendency to kind of alienate people when he doesn't need to. And even though he's kind of, in some ways, he's evolved with the times. You know, he's spoken very passionately about the need for inclusivity in video games, and you know that's been very positive. But he's also kind of stuck in the old ways of thinking about how to get people excited about video games. That's just not what people are into anymore.
That's exactly how I'd put it. He had a wake up call about where gaming is, and more along the advertising and the type of game he made than because the game looked good, but I mean if you told me, hey, you're going to bank your company, you own a video game company right now, you can make one type of game, and your company's future relies on it, and your answer was arena shooter, I'd fire you on the spot. It's fine, though,
but there's a way to sell it to make it. What he should have emphasized, or what the marketing folks should have emphasized, was this is fun. They should have emphasized the movement, right?
Well,
not like
that's Overwatch, though, right? I mean, isn't Overwatch the fun, competitive-ish shooter right now? Wouldn't you say?
But like layer the movement options on top of the fun. Like this is Overwatch, but you have jetpacks.
But instead, you're going to suck and you're going to get your ass beat, and this game's too hard for you average people. Right?
Wasn't there that other game that came out at the same time as Overwatch? So it's the same thing that nobody cared about?
Oh, yeah.
Battleborn was even worse in a lot of ways because they just didn't know how to sell it. It was a really confused game. It was a mixture of like a hero shooter, I guess, sort of MOBA-ish? I don't really know.
Yeah, it had lanes and all
the
that.
The MOBA part of it doomed that game. I played it. I want to say I bought like a complete pack for like $18 or something, like well into like the death spiral of that game. And confused is the best way to describe that game. It felt like they came up with the same idea that Overwatch did at the same time, and then they were like, "Oh shit, we've got to figure out something that makes this game not Overwatch," and that's what the game ended up with. But yeah, it was rough.
Oh, I was so confused, like in the lead up to the release of both those games. For a while, I got into my head that there was a game called Battle Watch coming out. I realized, wait, that makes no sense. There's no game called Overborn. But yeah, that game just flopped so badly. So we're talking about Microsoft and all they've been doing. So this year in June around E3, they announced that they'd bought out a whole bunch of studios.
Yeah.
Undead Labs, Playground Games, Compulsion Games, and Ninja Theory. And then in November, they announced even bigger news. They bought out Obsidian.
Yeah, and In Exile as well.
Oh, yeah, In Exile. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good... I don't know, man. Like, I feel like I talk a lot about how happy I am with where Microsoft is going. And I think it's because I've always been a PC gamer first, right? So I'm so glad now that I don't have to choose between a lot of Xbox games and PC games, and I get both, the best of both worlds, right? That's kind of what I've always wanted. Buy the game and you play it where you want to. And that's what they've been giving me on top of the Game Pass, on top of all the other stuff. So it's a good time to see them kind of do exactly what PlayStation did last generation when Microsoft was on top. And then, Microsoft came in with a lot of the, we're just going to do what we want. Too bad, deal with it. Everybody said, no, we're going to deal with it by going to Sony. And I feel like we're seeing the exact flip right now. In terms of who's the consumer-friendly one versus who's on top. So, yeah,
that's an interesting way of looking at this. What interests me about this move is that Microsoft, like I think we can all agree that their first-party development and their exclusives this gen have been somewhat anemic,
Absolutely.
even compared to previous gen. And I don't see this as a move to kind of do a Hail Mary this gen. I think they're bolstering up their development for next gen.
That's exactly what I would agree with. Exactly what I agree with. I think this is for a next-gen type streaming platform that they're leaning towards. The thing I would say, too, about it that's kind of interesting is it doesn't seem like where they've been hitting out of the park has been in AAA games, right? Like the God of Wars haven't been there. But the Cupheads have, and so have a lot of those little Ori and the Blind Forest and those types of things. So I think I think it kind of makes sense with the studios they're buying to really sell that level of it. Because if you're putting out 6 or 7 of those Cupheads or Oris a year, I think you've got a pretty good argument to make. Yeah, we might not have, the God of Wars or the the Uncharted's, but look, would you trade that for 4 Oris or 5?
Well,
I mean, that's a
pretty
valid
much
proposition.
the Switch strategy right now.
Yeah,
Right,
that's exactly
right.
what I was going to say. That's a valid proposition for the Switch, and it's worked out wonderfully well. It's a great home for indie games.
Yeah, but
I
Switch
think-
has this like weird, it's portable, so it like
That's
it's
true.
definitely a completely different thing on that in that way. Like,
Well, I mean,
people-
but if you argue that Microsoft's giving you PC and Xbox games at the same time, if I want to play Cuphead on a laptop, I mean, I'm sure it can run it, So I don't know. I mean, I feel like they've got some smartness going on right now and how they're moving things ahead. And I'd be interested to see where this ends, because I think we're all kind of agreeing that the next generation is a streaming system, right? Or at least a skew of it is.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
don't
going to
know.
be. I think that's going to be the gen afterwards.
Yeah.
The next
Yeah,
gen is going to be
yeah.
fairly standard.
I would say that I don't think we're ready for like only streaming. Like,
Well, it might be
gen-
like a component of it or something, I guess.
yeah,
I should
maybe.
say.
Yeah,
I
but
think,
yeah.
I think
we
they're
all-
going to try to move towards it, but it'll be like a quarter measure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you've got a lot of quick hit, fast streaming games, I think you want to have a varied lineup, and I think that's what they're pushing for. So it'll be interesting to see where it ends up. But I think Microsoft is going to be interested next gen a little bit more than I think Sony will be if they stay where they're at right now.
Well, Sony just seems like it's a mess right now. They don't have any information about what they're doing.
And it's frustrating people to the point of, hey, why can't I play my Fortnite account or just the account cross play? Like there's a lot of stuff in there that I think they've had to kind of cave to people that they felt really resistant on for not really a good reason other than too bad we don't want to let you, I don't know.
Rocket League was the big one, I remember.
Yeah, and remember,
Yeah,
Fortnite
crossplay is
accidentally
difficult
enabled.
though.
Fortnite accidentally enabled crossplay, and it was like in the game. People were like, "Yeah, I can play against Sony and people." And then like,
I bet there are some like legal reasons why they might not could have done that. Like, just I don't know. Like, I don't have any inside knowledge, but it seems easy to do and to say that it's a cool idea, but I don't know about like communication between those companies.
yeah,
Right,
I'd
but
agree.
then the legal argument becomes less believable if Nintendo and Microsoft cooperate with each other.
Right. Yeah.
But they could have like it could have been like for a long time. Like they could have like talked for a long time before it happened. Like it's not a thing that you can just like maybe do and then say just it went overnight. We just decided that to let people do this. Like it's probably a thing that it has to be like coordinated between two companies.
Well, I think Nintendo and Xbox did that, or Nintendo and Microsoft did that. And I think for some reason Sony's just never wanted to come to the table and have that same.
I think it's like different policies of the company. Like they
I
didn't
agree.
think that it was worth their time to like invest in this mode, like a crossplay mode for their games. I mean, it just didn't seem like a good idea for them. But obviously, I
mean, I sort of get it from the competition perspective,
Yeah,
because
it's
PlayStation
also-
and Xbox are kind of serving the same niche, whereas Nintendo's saying, oh, well, this is about playing Rocket League on the go versus your friend who's playing it on their couch, and
Yeah.
we're not really competing.
I mean,
so I
I
could
see
see
that
Nintendo's
somewhat.
argument.
Yeah, but I guess here's my thing too: is if you're a game dev, right, and you know that there's finite cycles for how long your game is going to be on top, or player bases are going to be a certain thing or whatever, Like, let me put it this way: like, let's say Rocket League, for example, right? How long are people going to play Rocket League for? 6 months, 8 months, a year? wouldn't
Fucking
you want
forever, man.
wouldn't you
Yeah.
want, but wouldn't you want your player base to be as high as possible for as long as possible?
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like, so if
Rocket
you-
League wanted crossplay. It was
Right.
Sony who wouldn't
So-
let them.
Right. So, but like that, if I was a dev, I'd really want that. I'd push for that and say, okay, well, I would want Nintendo people playing Xbox people playing PlayStation 4 people, because then I've got a community base, because some of those popular multiplayer games die out because there's just not enough people to play with, you know?
It's fragmented.
Or-
Definitely.
Yeah, but that's the devs
yeah, but-
wanted it. It's
yeah, the
Sony
devs
who wasn't
don't
playing
have
ball.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they push for that kind of stuff versus, you know, everybody else. So yeah.
It would
Well,
have
here
to
the
be a
platform
really
holders
big
have all the power.
company to you know, really want that and say like, oh, we're not going to release our game on your platform if you're not going to do that. And they're not going to say that probably, because it's just also not feasible in that way. Like the newest, like, I don't know, Call of Duty, maybe Call of
Yeah.
Duty, like, says like, we don't care. It's like our games like have a very short lifespan when it comes online, and it's like we're going to release them on all of the consoles, so we kind of don't care if they have cross-platform play. It's the indie game developers that really care, and they don't really have that much of a push, I think.
And
I
Call
think
of
you'd
Duty
agree.
has the advantage that they release a new game every year, so they don't need the lifespan the way an
Yeah.
indie game needs the lifespan to last.
That's
Yeah.
a good point. I bet you, in a way, they actually want it to die out, because, you know, those servers that they still got, you know, paying for Modern Warfare 2, it'd be great if they didn't have to keep paying for them, you know? Like, so I bet you they do kind of, in a way, want it to die out in kind of a natural cycle.
Yeah.
Probably saves them money. But, no, I mean, I think on the podcast, I think I'm on record of really liking what Microsoft's doing for a while now. And in a way, it kind of feels vindicating to see people come along, because I think I was the one person when they announced remember the original plan from Xbox One, where, you know, you were
Yeah, I
going to
still
own a
don't
game
think that was a
library.
great plan.
I still love it. I wish I had it, and kind of feel like
yeah,
watching them
I'm not
come
on
along.
board. Sorry.
Yeah, me
Um,
neither. I
but-
didn't like it.
Then again, I think it was as much like I'd say 50% of the reason is that wasn't a great plan. The other 50% of the reason is that Don Matrick was awful at selling it.
Yeah,
Yeah, they didn't present it in a good way. Like, just people were against it from the start.
But yeah, now Microsoft has kind of turned things around. What'll be interesting to see is that because Sony has secured so many exclusives, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes forward. Because now Nintendo's starting, for the Switch, is starting to secure some of the kind of lower fi Japanese games that don't have super high graphical requirements, and
Right.
those are getting placed on both Nintendo and Sony's consoles. And the bigger budget Japanese games are now also coming to Xbox. Microsoft's making a huge push. Like they went full weeaboo at E3, right? They're like
Yep,
advertising fucking
absolutely.
Dragon Ball and Jump Force. So now, like, if you're a Switch owner and you're debating, do I get the PS5 or the Xbox 2 or whatever it's going to be, it becomes an actual debate now. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. And now with Microsoft making a push for some really, potentially substantial exclusives, like I guess the Outer Worlds is going to be an Xbox exclusive, the upcoming Obsidian game.
Mm-hmm.
It does become an interesting value proposition. So,
And then you know what's so weird on top of all of this that we didn't I don't know if we were going to mention, but Sony's like, we're not even going to E3 this year. You know, like it's like, no, we're good. They're not having their own Sony event and they're not going to E3. So I just wonder, like, do they feel like they're so big they don't have to, or do they have
I think they
literally
just-
nothing to?
No, I think they just saw the writing on the wall when it comes to E3. E3 is dying out. I think like it just doesn't matter.
But still have your own event. I mean,
Yeah,
Nintendo does that. Nintendo doesn't
yeah.
do E3.
Nintendo still does a direct every E3.
Yeah.
And it works pretty well.
I
Aside
think
from,
Sony will also do maybe something similar. They won't just
no,
completely
they
say
said
no.
they're
they
just
said
not
they
going to
weren't
do a
doing
direct
E3
or anything.
yeah, they're not
Mhm.
doing anything till next year.
Which was my
Yeah.
question about Sony's goal going forward, is because there's word they're working on PS5, but there's nothing more than rumor about it. And they announced they're basically stopping most of their PS4 development and production. So it's like, when's the PS5 coming out? 3
Probably
years from
2020.
now? There's going to be a
2020, I
huge
guess.
gap.
Yeah. And especially since the
Winter
PS Pro was
2020.
the PS Pro is such a half measure, right? Like it's not a true 4K console in a lot of ways. That it doesn't even top the Xbox One X. You know.
I mean, it was never
yeah,
intended
but
to,
I
really.
think it's good enough. I think it's like
It's good enough for 3 years, though. I mean, 4Ks
Yeah.
are in everybody's house now.
No,
that.
no,
Really?
no,
No.
no.
I think you'd be surprised. 4K adoption rate's been pretty good.
I think you'd be surprised. I'm not saying you're wrong, maybe, but I don't think there as many people as you think have 4K TVs. Like a lot of people just.
I think it's
do
what
HD
like people who recently bought their TVs now
Yeah.
they're buying 4Ks. But if your
Maybe,
TV's
yeah.
like 6-7 years old, it's not a 4K TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
I
mean-
still have 720p TV, and I play a lot of video games, so I don't care. I don't want a 4K TV.
I have one of those fancy flat panel TVs, but it's a 1080p. It's also like 6 years old.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I just don't think like many people have 4K TVs. I don't think that's like a selling point for now. Like you're gonna play.
I would say like all the new TVs nowadays, if you're buying a new one, you're probably buying a 4K TV. But that's like, I don't know how big the market is so far. And
So
it might
it's
have been kind of
expected
ahead
to
of the
reach
curve.
98.4 million sales this year.
Sure.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot. I mean, that's
Yeah.
faster. That's up there with how people bought HD. You know, so if
Now,
you
it's
think
that
getting
is
about,
there.
global sales, not just U.S., but
yeah,
It's
That's
getting
a-
there.
yeah, it's
It's
I mean,
getting bigger. Sure, it's getting bigger because people are buying new TVs. Sooner or later, everyone is going to have an.
But if
4K
you're buying
TV.
a 4K right now and you're looking for a console, I don't know why you'd look at a PS Pro. I mean, it's
For the
Uh,
not-
exclusives, though, right?
I don't,
It's
it
the
does-
exclusives. You don't
Yeah.
if you don't want
Yeah.
if you don't want to play like Gears of War 4, then and you'd rather play I don't know Uncharted in full 4K
it's also
glory.
the price. I think
That's what you'd want.
also the price is like different between like PS Pro and Xbox, whatever, right? It's like it's more expensive.
it's where your friends are. We've talked about that a lot. I think that's
Also, yeah.
All right, so let's move on to September, when the big news was Telltale Games shutting down unexpectedly, just kind of out of nowhere.
Unexpectedly to you guys. I was like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I also was
I mean,
like,
I would
yeah,
say
that's yeah.
Once we learned of their financial situation, I was not surprised, but I still didn't think it would happen so suddenly. I thought there'd be rumblings.
When I heard about like their CEO going crazy, I was like, yep, this is the beginning of the end.
For me, I think it's like I think we talked about. I think you've got a combination of expensive licenses. I'm sure those licenses aren't all cheap. You know, you've got an aging-looking game and a system that isn't very fun, and just more the illusion of choice than actual choice across a series of games. Like when you've got an RPG like Mass Effect that handled choices better than games kind of designed around that premise, that's a weak way to go with it. It's hard for me to defend what their games were. And yeah, there was funny parts and lots of character development, and I do care about what happened to certain characters and their stories, but that's not going to get me playing every single game that they come out with.
And
I
plus,
think the
part of my
quality went
problem
down.
was I never had an idea of what the games were. I knew they were kind of choose your own adventure stuff, but it's just a hard thing to sell to a random person if you haven't actually tried them.
But
I don't
see-
think that's the problem. I think like the people that were into them were way into them before. Like I was into them, way into them, and then like the quality went down real bad
because
when
they
were
started
like,
turning them out too fast.
Yeah.
yes.
So just
they-
compare
yeah.
The Walking Dead season 2 to the original Walking Dead season
Yeah,
1,
exactly.
and the quality just plummets.
Yeah.
And like you go. I'm not gonna say that the complexity of the decision tree is what really matters here.
No.
But you go from your choices sort of not mattering in retrospect in The Walking Dead, but it still sort of works as a narrative, to The Walking Dead season 2, where your choices just transparently don't matter.
Yeah, like
It's-
in the next scene, like it's like
Yeah,
oh,
the next
but
scene,
not
like-
only, not only the choices don't matter, but like you don't care about the characters really.
Yeah.
Because it's
Oh yeah,
like
I was just
badly written.
angry by the end of.
Yeah.
I feel like there was an A team is the best way I could put it. There was a team at Telltale that was knocking out of the park with like Walking Dead season 1 and like The Wolf Among Us and like maybe some of the other games, and then I feel like you had another team that was just like, just get this Game of Thrones game out the fucking door, And so like I feel like the A team was like, let's say Walking Dead, then Wolf Among Us, then Borderlands, right? Like I think those are all like highly received, and then every other game was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, there was a Guardians of the Galaxy one. There was a I mean, it's just
Minecraft Story Mode was actually one of their biggest hits.
Yeah,
but I don't know anybody who liked it.
Yeah.
but like, mostly kids though, I think, and like it also, I don't know if you know, as the Minecraft Story Mode went to Netflix, so that was like so weird to see that. Like
Netflix
so
has games now, I guess.
Yeah, just like Let's Plays. I guess it's a Let's Play.
Yeah, so the update here actually is that the last season of The Walking Dead went to Skybound Games, which I guess the comic publisher that published the Walking Dead comic. So it will get finished, but everything else, like The Wolf Among Us, any other games they were working on, those are just dead now. For good.
It's a shame. The Wolf
Yeah,
Among Us was, I think, one of the last good games that they made.
I agree.
It was phenomenal, and I'm sad we're not going to get a season 2. Then again, I don't know if I'd want a season 2 made by Zombie Telltale.
Oh yeah,
because
isn't
I
that
love the
kind
first
of-
season of The Walking Dead.
Doesn't
The
that kind
second
of
season was
speak to
garbage.
not understanding or listening to your fans when people are saying, "Man, Wolf Among Us, what a fantastic game! Let's get." Why wasn't that sequel prioritized over all the other weird shit they made between?
Because The Walking Dead the Wolf Among Us season 1 just didn't sell.
yeah. I think they
Nobody
were like,
bought it.
you know what's cool? Getting the Game of Thrones license while that is hot. Like that will get us a lot of money.
They thought they'd make sales on it, and they
Yeah.
just didn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
that game! Cool. Have you guys tried that?
Yeah, I did.
Game
I
of
played
Thrones one?
3 episodes. It wasn't good.
I'm surprised you made it that far. That second episode was just like, yeah, you know what? Fuck you. None of this matters.
Yeah,
here's what the story is.
It was really bad. It was
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, it was really bad.
So yeah.
It didn't even have Peter Dinklage in it, and we
Nope.
all know Peter
It did,
Dinklage is the curse that ruins video games.
You know, there's like I would love to kind of like put down a list of like there's a genre of game where you play as like not them. Like, do you guys remember there was like a Lord of the Rings RPG that came out not too long ago where you play as like not Legolas, not Gimli, and not
Yeah.
Aragorn? Like,
Oh yeah, it was like a weird Final Fantasy X style RPG.
yeah, it was pretty good as far
Yeah,
as
it
the
was
game
pretty
went, but it's
okay.
like you're playing
Knock off
just like
Legolas, knock off
Yeah.
Gimli, knock off Aragorn. It's really weird.
Well,
I-
you could have played as the actual ones because they already had the SNES RPG, which is the best RPG for Lord of the Rings possible.
yeah, they do a lot of weird stuff with those types of like they don't
Oh,
want
yeah.
to tell the same story, but they don't want to tell you a different story.
But
But
it was the same story, almost exactly. It was
Game of
So you
Thrones-
play as like Schmegalos or Wimley.
yeah, exactly. They were pretty much, yeah. They were like, they were like in the Spaceballs joke about like stunt actors. Like they were
Yeah.
looking just
Oh,
slightly
it's like the
off.
Schwartz.
Yeah, also that.
But
Yeah.
then the Game of Thrones games basically what it does is just creates a house, creates a like, and then it just puts in all these situations that you're like, yeah, that's something a Lannister would do to a Stark, you know, or whatever. But like,
Except for it's like House Fork or something.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know why that was the name I came up with.
I am from House Fork. We're
But it-
really into cutlery.
And then it gives you all these like scenarios where it's like, okay, there's no way I can win, and like it's supposed to feel like, you know how in Game of Thrones where like somebody's backed into a corner, they get desperate, but then it doesn't matter in the game because it's going to give you the outcome that's already pre-programmed in there. You know, like it's I don't know. It
Even if you
makes me
take
worse.
make a good decision, the game will just find some way to fuck you over.
Yeah.
That's what I realized about Telltale games. No matter, like especially The Walking Dead Season 2, no matter what you do, even if it makes sense, the universe will spit in your face and fuck you over.
Yeah.
And that's just not fun gaming.
Yeah, it wears you
Like,
down.
there's no
Oh,
puzzle or moral
Telltale.
dilemma when everything you do just fucks something over.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of, well, like 10 years ago, there was a big push to have a lot of moral choices in games. You got stuff like Fable and whatnot. And almost all of them seem to come into that where the moral choices never mattered in the games.
Mhm.
I think I
Yeah.
can count on one hand the number of games that actually have moral choices where your choices actually
hard.
have an impact.
It's really hard to make a choice that makes an impact because you have to design a whole part of a game where most of the audience won't see it, and then you're like, we're wasting money. And that's
yeah,
not
no, I
good.
understand. It's
See,
hard.
I'm,
Just
I'm
everybody
fine
tries
with
to
it
do
just being like
Yeah.
expressive choice and just influencing the tone. So I think Dragon Age does that super well.
Yeah, I agree. I think BioWare nails it, where it's like it doesn't have to necessarily.
Oh my God, Dragon Age though. Dragon Age is also one of the casualties of EA.
Well,
we might get into that later. No, Dragon Age 4 is getting made.
But the last two Dragon Ages just weren't very good.
But like, remember when
Inquisition?
When Mass Effect 2 rolled out, and you were like, oh my God, all that shit. Well, not all of it, but lots of shit that I didn't think was even going to matter. All of a sudden matters in this game.
Yeah.
You know, like even little.
Yeah.
And so if they could pull it off, what I'm saying is that was kind of like there was still a solid RPG game underneath all that, and then it's like with Telltale, all you got is the damn choices. You know, that's it. That's all there is there.
Yeah, but it's like a simpler game. You know, it's just like a medium to tell the story more than
it's also like a much lower budget game.
Yeah,
but still, I mean, you can sit there and you can storyboard out those choices and make. You know, I get you don't want to make totally different games at some point, but you know, you can still put some effort into it where it's not so transparent. 20 minutes later, that the choice you made didn't fucking matter.
I think you guys are way too much into those choice things. I think
at the end of the day, though,
it's the story that matters. If it's a good like a plot, like nobody cares about the choices.
Let me put it this way: I'm sure this had some impact on like. The quality of their games had some impact on sales. I think there were a lot of commenters and pundits who initially didn't want to go down that route, and I think they were mistaken. But there are other factors. Just like The Wolf Among Us was not a super popular license. People didn't want discount Game of Thrones, for instance. They wanted the real thing with the characters they liked.
Yeah.
So, like, I can see why it wasn't just quality that screwed them in the end. It was picking up expensive licenses that people didn't want to really play through in the end.
And not only that, like lower quality storytelling in those expensive licenses. It's crazy to think that they thought that they could pull it off.
Yeah.
So in the end, if you like churn out low quality games on expensive licenses, people are just not gonna come and buy them.
And
which is weird.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just thought about like all those games that were done in the past, like licensed games, right? So all of those were really bad. And like, remember before like The Dark Knight, I mean Arkham Asylum, there were a bunch of like Batman games that were really bad, and like Spider-Man games that were some of the Spider-Man games were pretty good. But a lot of like games based on movies and comic books were really horrible.
I don't know what you're talking about. Superman 64 was great.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's I don't know if that was an expensive license, but you know, you buy a thing and you just hope that it sells based on its license and nothing else.
Here's the other part of it is how weird is it that you flood the market yourself with your own product? You know what I mean? Like there was
devalued their own product.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, okay, well, if I don't like this Telltale game, I'll wait a week and there'll be another one out in 2 months. You know, it's like, yeah, it's weird to me that would be something that a company would do and not just take a sit back and be like, okay, we just released one. Why don't we wait a month or something, you know? And
I think what they could have done is just experimented with genre a bit.
Yeah.
Instead of, if they could release games in that volume if they were actually different from each other.
Right.
And I mean, part of the problem there, too, is they're releasing a bunch of games, but they're releasing them in episodes. So, you know, one game is spread out over a lot of time, which can be confusing for people to follow. You know, I buy part of an episode. Now I got to wait 6 months, a year for the second episode while 2 other games came out in the meantime.
That's like the Kentucky Route Zero model.
And it's not the perfect schedule. They almost never kept, like, a good schedule going. So you're kind of like...
It worked really well, though, for, like, Life is Strange. So it can work.
Yeah, but they had most of that game was already, I think, pretty in a good state when they started letting out the episodes. I don't think it was like, oh, geez, we got to finish the episode 3 before we, go out with episode 2.
They're pretty good about adhering to a schedule. There were a couple of delays along the way, but they more or less adhered to the schedule, and you know it was very regular. Like every 3 months, you're going to get another installment of this.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing about episodic games is I think it gives you a lot more of an incentive to wait till the whole game is out than a regular game would. Do you know what I mean? Because you're not going to get the ending spoiled. The most you'll get is a 1 or 2 episodes in, so you can let people try out a 20-minute, 30-minute episode, get the feedback, see what it's like, and then catch back up with it, 2 or 3 weeks down the line. I think there's more of an incentive to do that.
Man, Life is Strange was really good.
Yeah,
it's just like crazy that they pulled off a better Telltale game than Telltale did.
I didn't like that half a sequel thing they did though. That was rough.
Yeah, that was very good.
Before the Storm, I didn't end up playing it.
Yeah. You're probably better off, honestly.
Also in September, a couple of other big things happened. Nintendo Switch Online launched, so they finally have an online service. I guess it's not really much of a service, but it's there.
Not. I am subscribed though. I don't know why, but I am.
I subscribed this week just to play in those avocado tournaments for Smash.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Smash the thing. So I've heard it's functional, but just really bare bones. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Also, how's that classic game subscription? Is that even a thing?
I haven't NES
hooked up
to my TV. I haven't touched it yet.
I did play a couple of those virtual console games. The classic games.
Yeah, they don't have virtual console this time around.
Yeah,
what are they
they're
doing,
classics.
man?
It's not great. Like there's just I don't know, 15, 20 games available, and they keep releasing, I think, new ones every now and then, and they even are releasing like weird hacks of games that they already released. Like they released a Zelda hack it's very weird what they're doing with that. But it's interesting. It's
better than what PlayStation Classic did. I'll tell you that.
yeah, but it's interesting with the hacks. I was surprised, like positive. Like I didn't think like they would do anything as interesting as that with that service. So it's pretty okay.
Okay, it's gonna keep chugging along.
Yeah.
I'm probably never gonna buy in because I'm a cheap ass. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I feel kind of guilty for having it, but there you go. Here we are.
All right. Also in September, EA got in hot water because they defied a Belgian court order on loot boxes.
Is that even a real country, though? I mean, let's be
honest.
Belgium a real country. I know people from Belgium.
What is it, Belgia?
No, we're just making it up.
So what Belgium ruled was that loot boxes count as gambling and so have to be regulated as gambling. EA argued that loot boxes aren't gambling. Matter is going to be headed toward to a Belgian court. If EA loses the legal battle, then it could possibly have a chilling effect on other publishers. And now, very recently, the Belgian government reportedly launched a criminal investigation into EA's business practices. So shit's going down in Belgium.
Yeah. I kind of feel like this is like old getting Al Capone on, like tax evasion charges, though. Like, it's interesting that they're outlawing the loot boxes, but, I feel like it's too far down the road. Like, you've got entire microtransaction designed games now on mobile and stuff. So I don't know how those games are going to, it's weird that EA is the one fighting it. I would imagine it'd be like one of those weird mobile companies like Tencent or something doing it, but
they don't have the cautious, right?
Yeah.
EA has
it's less interesting to take down one of those little guys than just strike, a giant.
Right. But I guess from my perspective, I'm like, I just don't, like, I think it's a shitty business practice. I just don't know if I'm 100% behind it being like gambling, classified as gambling. It just doesn't. I don't know. Something about it seems weird to me. Like,
it's also the microtransaction thing is kind of weird. Also, I agree that it's like maybe it's an overreaction to call it gambling, but I also think it's not cool what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me put it this way: like, gambling is functionally illegal throughout most of Japan. How do they get around that? You essentially, quote unquote, gamble at like a pachinko machine. You get tokens, you redeem them for like prizes. But you can't like gamble for money. It's the same sort of thing. It's effectively gambling here.
You get money. You get money back.
The best thing about that gambling in Japan, you get prizes, and just around the corner, there's someone willing to pay you money for those prizes that you got.
Yeah. That's the thing.
In the U.S.,
nobody's willing to pay. I guess people are willing to pay money for like they're like online, skin exchanges for Dota or what have you.
If you ever want to
these
read
things
like
exist.
a historical article that's really fascinating, right? In the United States, there was a big thing about games of luck versus games of skill, right? So slots versus video games, right? And so there was a New York gambling commission that basically said pinball is a game of luck. So they wanted to basically make pinball illegal outside of casinos. And so they got some like pinball jockey to show them like, no, I can hit this, I can do that. Like he literally said like hit that ramp, and he would hit the ramp. He's like, so they classified pinball as a game of skill and let it be still in arcades. But
I think the problem with pinball was that it attracted a large clientele of maybe illicit intentions. Maybe
people would bet on it and gamble on it.
And remember, pinball in the 40s didn't have flippers when LaGuardia was doing all of that. So in the 40s, it still kind of was more luck-based.
It was like
it was basically pachinko.
Yeah. So, but I guess where I'm going with that is if I was going to be the one to take down gambling in esports or whatever, I would take down all those weird whatchamacallit sites, those like gamble for skins in CS:GO type things.
Oh God, those things, Jesus!
Yeah, because that's actual gambling. And then I feel like that's a bigger step you can do.
I think they're trying to take them down.
In the same kind of legal gray areas like fantasy sports betting sites?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they
So-
are. But
That's why they're kind of allowed to continue operating. Not saying they should be, but
I think they're just like companies trying to like communicate that they do not want any of that shit going on.
Yeah.
And like I think I remember Valve going for the biggest site that was like handling.
right. But that was
those.
after the whole T. Martin fiasco.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Valve didn't take action until the negative
Everybody
press
was like,
started
"Wait a
rolling in.
minute, yeah, you're ripping off kids." I don't know. Like, I think we're all kind of microtransactions sucks. It's a problem. It shouldn't exist. But I think the other part of it is like I don't know if I would technically call it gambling. It just doesn't have that same feeling to me as gambling because, like who am I to say like if I buy an Overwatch loot box, right, and I get a Tracer skin, but I wanted a McCree skin. I mean, yeah, there's kind of an element of luck to it, but I still get something. Like it's not like you either lose everything or win a large amount to me, which is what gambling is about to me.
Yeah, I don't think it's exactly gambling, but I think like it's a gachapon machine kind of, and that also sucks a lot. And like it's a thing that addicts people. It's not maybe per se gambling per se, but it's addictive, and it's
at the end of the day, it's kind of whether or not it's gambling is kind of semantics. And
right?
It's still something
it's a moot point because it's
problematic.
Yeah, it's
in the industry.
It's predatory. It's like trying to get as much money from people as possible, and it doesn't have a limit. And I don't know, that sucks.
What confuses me on this story is looking at it, one of the games that triggered it was FIFA 18. What loot boxes are in FIFA 18?
So in FIFA, they have the same thing as Madden does, where they call it an ultimate team, right? So think about like fantasy football or fantasy soccer or whatever, right? So you basically buy a pack of cards. The cards then have a random amount in them. And then each card has random stats to it. So like, let's say you buy the pack and you get a Tom Brady, but he's an 85. You can then go on the market, sell that 85 Tom Brady, and try to get a 90 Tom Brady plus a little bit of cash. There's a weird, like, market that exists in there that where you're basically trading, real money for virtual money to buy these cards, and then trading the cards with a, kind of a thing into it because they have this whole online marketplace. That one I think is a really good example of when it's much closer to gambling than, let's say, an Overwatch loot crate. Do you know what I mean? Because that whole underground system, I played a little.
Yeah, because there's no resale system for Overwatch loot crates,
and it's all inside its own little economy where they're setting the prices, and then people are bidding on it, and there's an auction house, and it feels really weird because I play a lot of Madden, and Madden Ultimate Team has kind of the same thing. And when I was getting into it, I was like, wait a minute, so if I want a classic skinned, Ray Lewis middle linebacker card, he's my favorite player, I basically got to go on this shop and get gouged for a million different reasons, or like make all the complicated trades. A lot of it involves real money, and that was the one example where I'm like, yeah, this is getting really close.
It's kind of like the Diablo 3 real money auction house.
Right.
Oh
right.
God, that thing. Oh,
And
so
speaking of
bad.
Diablo, yeah, that's right. I did a segue.
Nice.
Speaking of Diablo, Diablo Immortal was announced at BlizzCon this year in November, and it was not well received. Diablo Immortal is going to be a mobile version of Diablo that is being developed in conjunction with the mobile studio NetEase, which doesn't have the best track record as far as mobile games go. So, I understand the trepidation, but I'm interested to see what you guys think about the reaction and the backlash to the backlash, and then, the third or fourth or fifth layer of backlash.
This was kind of similar to what Valve did, where Blizzard just woefully misunderstood how to present this.
Yep, exactly right. I think the problem is going to be 5 years down the line. What we're going to say is the problem was how they presented it. I think the game will be fine. I honestly do. I think it's how they presented it. When if you can't go out there and say I've got a Diablo announcement and it just be a mobile game, that's a slap in the face to
That's
lots
true.
and lots of people. Remember, like when Microsoft at E3 did the Gears of War, they said they're gonna have a new Gears thing. They did kind of like a jokey app. Remember they announced like a little it was like a chibi Gears of War game.
Funko Pop of Gears
Yeah,
of
it was like
War.
Funko Pop Gears of War. Kind of
I
like
was
that
so
mobile app game.
confused during that announcement.
Yeah.
And then they announced like an RTS, and people were like, "What the fuck?" And then they're like, "No, Gears of War 5." That was, I think, what people were expecting. Like, okay, yeah, there's a Diablo app, and then they're like, "Yeah, but like one, I don't think Diablo 4 is anywhere near ready, most likely." But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the game will be okay enough. I feel like the way they announced it was, oh my god, what a mistake at a BlizzCon.
Yeah, they did say before the conference that we're announcing the Diablo game, but don't get too excited. It's not the Diablo that you think about. Please don't hype yourself for it.
Still,
And-
man,
Right,
I mean,
but if they know it's going to be poorly received, why would they announce it
as the
keynote?
centerpiece. Yeah, it's almost their centerpiece was that game.
Like, I understand that you need to satisfy the investors.
Yeah.
But aren't investors satisfied with like a press release?
Yeah, and I don't think
Yeah.
I think if you're already interested into BlizzCon, I don't necessarily think that you need to have you can announce expansions and new games and remakes and stuff like that. And I think most fans would be okay with it. But if you're going to tease a big announcement like that, geez, I don't know, man. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think it was a really, really bad way to do the announcement. But I anticipate the game will be good enough. You got to remember this. Almost every original IP that Blizzard announced, people hated Hearthstone. People hated Overwatch.
People
hated
didn't
Heroes
like
of
Diablo
Storm.
3.
Yeah, Diablo 3 was a bit. Why don't you just keep making Diablo 2 expansions forever? People didn't like World of Warcraft. I know people. You guys might think I'm going to be crazy, but if you go way back in the history of the internet, like hardcore RTS fans were like, "Fuck this! Blizzard is dead as a company."
They fucking printed money off that shit.
Yeah, I mean, like you can go back and look at basically every IP that wasn't like a new like Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2. People hated them. So I think there's a lot of room in there for Blizzard to show they can do this game right. And I might be the last person in the world. I still have a lot of faith in Blizzard, and I think they'll knock it out of the
They
park.
make good games. Like whenever they really try, they make good games because they care about quality a whole bunch.
Oh, and
because
you better believe that right now.
Yeah. No, but when I heard about the stories for Diablo 4, I don't know if I shared this on this podcast already, but I think last time I did. But I read a story that they were like, Blizzard said, like, yeah, we did develop Diablo 4 for a long time, and it would have been, an announcement would have been ready for BlizzCon, but then we were like, nah, scrap it all. Scrap all of it. Like, it was a third-person perspective game, and then they were like, aiming for like a Dark Souls type game, but then they were like, nah, this isn't Diablo, scrap it all. And they started from scratch, and that's why they didn't really go for an announcement on this BlizzCon, because they were like, what if we have to scratch this one off as well, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but how long was StarCraft 2 delayed for? Because I remember that was announced, and it came out at least 2 years after the original release date. It was supposed to be out because it kept getting pushed back, and then it got split into the trilogy, and God knows the Legacy of the Void was pushed back years.
Yeah.
If they're going to
Not to
release something as divisive as a mobile game, say, yeah, we have Diablo 4 coming, here's a mobile game in the meantime. It would
That's
have...
a great way to put it. Yeah.
Not to
yeah.
mention, it's the Titan project that they just a big MMO that they just scrapped and.
Well, that became Overwatch, though. I mean, at least
Yeah.
it's something with that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, like even Jason Schreier from Kotaku said, "Fucking there's gonna be a Diablo 4. They're working on it. I've seen builds." And then they were like, "Nah, no, we're not. He's made that up." Like,
Yeah.
No, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
We'll
Yeah.
see.
I mean, you know, I understand why devs get cagey about things that are in development and things that are in flux. But I do sympathize with them being, not positive about backlash. But at the end of the day, you can't be this tone deaf.
yeah.
You just can't. You have to understand your audience to some degree. And if your audience is toxic, maybe you want to go out and get a different audience. But I don't think saying, don't sell us mobile crap at BlizzCon is particularly toxic. Like, it's not, don't make video games with women or anything like that. It's very much like, this is not the product I was looking for.
Right.
Include other people.
And that's why I think this one is is so different than, like, let's say, like the Battlefield 5 hate, which I think has a lot of that in there. It's more like you made your fans mad by hyping them and then dropping the ball, and it's not the other thing, which is like, I'm just going to be mad because I expect this game to cater to me.
I think so. What I think has been, and I might say something controversial here, so let me just preface this by saying,
Do tell.
Isn't that my
that
job?
we're going down a weird road. I think, and I understand why people react this way. There's a lot of toxicity in the gaming community, and it's accompanied by a kind of righteous anger.
No.
But it's not the anger that's the problem. It's the toxic attitudes.
Yeah.
I don't think anger is an invalid reaction to have, and I think there's a tendency to kind of conflate the two. So anytime people see anger, they think that it must be accompanied by a toxic attitude. That's not necessarily the case. So I think that's why we saw kind of a backlash to the backlash initially.
Mm-hmm.
It's just entitled gamers being toxic again. And
This time I don't think it was, and I'm usually one of
Yeah.
those people to call that when I see it. I'm like, guys, back off. You're just being angry to be angry, or like, Andromeda was probably my perfect example. Like, yeah, there was a lot of problems with it, but it didn't. Nobody deserved death threats over Andromeda.
No, God no. Yeah.
But like, this is one of those
if
times
you're
where
sending death threats to animators, what are you doing
Yeah.
with your life?
Yeah. But this one, I feel like, still, death threats are never right. But I think this time what the people are angry about isn't necessarily wrong. It's not the entitled gamer that it usually is. This time I feel like it's something a little bit different, where it's the company failing to deliver what should be a slam dunk for them at their own fucking conference that they set the schedule and everything for,
I mean, I think the tone was different this time. It wasn't
I
like
agree.
people were going crazy on Twitter and death threatening people. It was just like, I don't know, people were disappointed and kind of angry, and that was that.
Yeah, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of this is the death of Blizzard shit. No mobile game is going to kill Blizzard. I got news.
No,
No.
Blizzard's sitting on a pile of cash.
Yeah,
That's-
exactly.
That's as usual
at
on
the end of the day-
overreaction.
Yeah.
So
So
going to be the death of X. That's the whole internet in a nutshell. Like
I think that's caught us up, right? I mean, we're pretty current right now, right?
December.
Yeah, so now we're in the month of December, and as we know, nothing happens in the month of December. So that's pretty much all the gaming news that happened this year. So what we're going to do now is we're going to throw it on over to our wonderful avocado community. They're going to tell us their top 3 games of the year, and then we're going to come back and talk about our top 3 games of the year.
Yay.
And then the games we didn't like from this year. Because there was some garbage this year.
Oh yeah.
But let's stay positive and let's throw it on over to the community for their top 3 games of the year.
This is Gougagna, and these are my top 3 games of 2018. Number 3 is Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4. Well, I don't think it did anything spectacularly different. It was a well put together game. It looked great. The action was quick and smooth and never really felt extraordinarily difficult, but was still hard enough that there was some challenge to it. I'm not the kind of guy who likes hard games, Dark Souls and all that's not my speed, so I like to be able to reasonably breeze through a game, and Spider-Man was right smack in the middle of just challenging enough that I sometimes died and had to start again, but not so hard that I would throw my controller across the room. Even though most of the game seems to be collecting things from all over the place, the fact that as the game progressed they add more and more collectibles meant that you never get bored of looking just for backpacks or just for those scientific experiments. Pretty good stuff. I had a lot of fun with my time with it. But the problem was it was immediately followed by my number 2 game, which was Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Going through that one, the world was enormous, absolutely huge, but the gameplay itself was fun. So even though it was pretty repetitive with not a whole lot of extra options going on as you're playing through it, it was dumb fun. I could pick it up, play a mission for 15-20 minutes, put it down and pick it up later without feeling like I lost a spot. Didn't quite drag me along, but it was beautiful to look at, and there was just enough variety and just enough reason to keep going after the various mercenaries and whatnot that, good time was had. I didn't have to think too hard. The story was good if it wasn't great, but it all came together as probably one of the better Assassin's Creeds. I would say it's my 4th favorite Assassin's Creed after Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Assassin's Creed Origins, and probably around the level of one of the Pyro ones. But my number 1 game overall, even if it wasn't the best gameplay, it was easily and far and away the most emotional and mentally satisfying game, was Red Dead Redemption 2. The first one was the first game I'd played on console since I got one in 2010. I hadn't gone console free since, Nintendo 64? And so it'd been a few years since I'd played anything significant, and that thing blew me away. So waiting 8 years for Red Dead Redemption 2 was a crazy wait. But when I played it, it managed to meet or even surpass the original in so many ways. The music was amazing in particular. The details, the colors, the fact that the world wasn't all dust and grime and dirty. The fact that you were through forests and snow and desert and swamp, and the variety of the areas without ever feeling like it was forced. But knowing that not many people have actually finished the game, the crushing, heartbreaking ending, and then the next part of it in the epilogue that was bittersweet and crushing and heartbreaking, knowing that Red Dead 1 was going to happen later down the line. And yet you still felt kind of good about it at the end, until you remembered. So I've been on and off since the end of the game, alternately loving and hating how I feel about the end. But you have to finish it yourself to figure out why that is. Alright, that's Gougagna signing out.
Hello, GamesCast. This is Gilles, Raisin, and Bran. My top 3 games this year were Hitman 2, Into the Breach, and Dead Cells. Hitman 2 is just more of the 2016 Hitman, but with some quality of life improvements, like you can now hide in tall grass. Actually, I think that's the main big one. You can hide in tall grass now, and you couldn't before, but it's useful. It makes a big difference on some of the levels, and honestly, just more levels was all it needed to be. The 2016 game was great. The new one, I love it. It's got that same core structure of replaying a level different ways to unlock new starting locations and weapons, and then using those unlocks to plan better kills, however you may define that. And you can access the entire game from the beginning, which is a bit different from the episodic release. And I think it took me about 2 weeks before I even touched the last mission, because I was just replaying the first 2 or 3 and the season 1 levels. Also, you can hit people with a fish, which more games should let you commit fish violence. Second up is Into the Breach, which is a weird combination of XCOM, FTL, and shoving small children into swimming pools. And I don't know, it scratched a lot of urges at once. I don't 100% that many games anymore, but I had to with this. Dead Cells, also a roguelike. Into the Breach being the other one, a roguelike Hitman would be entirely too much, and it's another game where you're given a set of tools at the start and the game trusts you enough to let you mostly figure out things on your own. It's kind of a theme throughout all three games. I like games that do that a lot. Great music, and the credits at the end are procedurally generated and will never end, which amused me more than just about anything else. And special mentions go out to Dark Souls Remastered for being the best version of one of my favorite games, and Vampire for being a goth dialogue simulator.
Hello there, GamesCast listeners. This is PT chiming in, and yes, insert Suikoden reference right there. So, truth be told, I didn't play a lot of new games in 2018. I'm just not interested in stuff like, say, Red Dead Redemption 2 or, well, God of War at full price. And also stuff like getting praise that's, like Dead Cells, didn't really grab me all that much. I was like, whatever. And additionally, a lot of games I enjoyed this year were either from last year or they were Switch ports of previous games. And yes, that means, hey, play the Diablo 3 port on Switch if you haven't already. It's great. Super great. So I'm going to start with two games that aren't quite Game of the Year potential, but I'm glad they exist. Now, first up is a collection in which many of the games themselves aren't really that great, but that's not really the point. Anyway, the folks over at Digital Eclipse have done great work with their previous retro collections, like Mega Man Legacy Collection and such, and I feel that the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection is their best work yet. Not only that, but it might be the best example yet of how to honor gaming history with compilations. And again, the games aren't blowaway here. I mean, some of the games in SNK's early days are simplistic, repetitive, and they don't particularly hold up. But this is also a collection where you can play the NES classic Crystallis, not to mention the arcade versions of all the Ikari Warriors games. The options for how to play each game it's honestly kind of remarkable. If you want to play the Japanese version of these games, you go right ahead. If you want to play the NES ports of stuff like Ikari Warriors, and why the hell would you want to do that, quite honestly? Or POW, instead of their far superior arcade versions, you can do that as well. For the sake of your sanity and all. There are so many small things here, including the ability to watch a playthrough of each game, but just jump right into the action. Like, no questions asked. Like, play a run of Crystallis and, oh, hey, okay, that's the place where I got stuck on. I'm just going to start here right now. Okay, good. And finally, the museum element of this collection is just outstanding. I mean, there's lots of rare artwork and sketches, there's some amusing arcade flyers, and all in all, just a ton of information about SNK and how they evolved as a company. I mean, you'd be surprised to know of their origins before they became just the Neo Geo people. Because I think most people think SNK, Neo Geo, etc. So anyhow, I recommend this collection not entirely for the games, but just how well it's been put together. I think it's a really good step. And another one before we start, but I want to clarify about, that's Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. I mean, I'm glad these games, no matter how they're named, the Wonder Boy, Monster World, there are entire stories and podcasts discussing that thing, how that works. I'm glad these games continue to be made in some capacity. I mean, they're just charming, delightful romps that play incredibly well and are so full of character. You can tell the developers of these games just pour their hearts and soul into them, and it's much appreciated. So yes, you can buy this, and buy also Wonder Boy the Dragon's Trap. They're both on Nintendo Switch. They're both really great games. But, okay, anyway, so top 3 of 2018. Number 3 would be Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now, I've never been a Smash Bros. Person. In fact, many of you on the Avocado, I've been somewhat vocal about the Smash games not being competitive fighting games. But actually purchasing this game and playing through its adventure mode, the World of Light mode, maybe you'll kind of get it, actually. I mean, the combat itself is kind of satisfying once you find the type of character that you really enjoy playing with. I mean, I'm kind of a hard rush person, so someone like Cloud is more best for me. And all in all, the nostalgia for these games are just through the roof. I mean, and I think I say nostalgia in a good way. Not just, oh, haha, reference right there. Remember how I referenced that thing? But it's clear the developers of this game and the Smash Smash games in general, just absolutely appreciate the material in these games. I mean, just the worlds and the characters and the really deep cuts and the remixes of the music. And I mean, of course, I just think this is a love letter to Nintendo and these general franchises. And you know what? That's worth it for me right there. Now, I really hope we as a community start arranging some Smash games online using Nintendo Online, because I'd like to play this more and more as I get tired of the single-player content. So, number 2 would be, Spider-Man, the PS4 Spider-Man. And I think what Insomniac did here was just a tremendous achievement when it comes to AAA gaming. I mean, Spider-Man is definitely a AAA game with the usual trimmings, but I think there's a polish here that is not often seen in other blockbuster games. I mean, the traversal element is just, fun to do. I mean, webbing, going across the city, just, zipping back and forth. It's just satisfying and just delightful. And the way movement links with the combat and with the many, many tools you have, that's great as well. I mean, it's really fun. And the thing that really gets to me, actually, is the plot is one of the better renditions of, gotta get all the Spider-Man's villains together, gotta get that rogues gallery into the game. I think it's one of the best versions of that I've seen, where it's not like, it was just bound to happen there. For example, I think most people know where the Doc Ock stuff is going. I mean, if you even have like a minor idea of what Spider-Man is and his villains, but I think it was still presented in an effective manner. Now, the DLC is also an example of how to expand the game correctly, or expand a game correctly, rather. I mean, the content has only been middling to good. The first DLC was fine. Second one was not so great. Currently working on the third one as of this recording. But I've enjoyed going back to the game and this world. And yeah, of course, I'm here for a sequel, which is kind of strange to say for a blockbuster title, right? And finally, I decided to pick a game of the year based on my general experience and not if I was immediately going to go back and play it again. And the idea of playing a game as such as long as, say, Dragon Quest XI is, sadly, many of us are adults of limited time these days. So perhaps I'll play Dragon Quest XI only once. But I fell in love with this game. It was my favorite game of the year. And, I mean, long story short, Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy are two elements that counter one another, kind of a yin and yang approach. And they're both different things I equally enjoy. I mean, the progressive, often weird nonsense of the mainline Final Fantasy games these days, and the absolutely conservative comfort food level that is Dragon Quest. And Dragon Quest XI is honestly, hey, you know what? You liked Dragon Quest VIII a lot. Let's do that again. But make the graphics even prettier, we have new characters and a new world, and, all that stuff. And frankly, and yes, it is a very traditional Japanese RPG with the right flourishes of modern design. I mean, the characters are archetypes, but they're likable. The story is simple, but it's engrossing. And I just really felt happy playing this game. It's a Dragon Quest game with a lot of the rough edges kind of filed off, especially if you've played a JRPG or two in your life. And honestly, it's hard to say, but I honestly wonder if this is a really good way to introduce someone to the genre. It's simple. It's not like dead simple, but it's also not overwhelming, you could say. But yeah, that was my game of the year. I really enjoyed Dragon Quest XI there. So that's what I got for you there. I mean, you can feel free to comment in the thread here or me personally on the avocado. And now we return you to whatever nonsense Merve is talking about. I'm sure he brought up Yoku's Island Express or something. But anyway, have a good day.
All right. Thank you to our community for sharing with us their favorite games of 2018. Now it's our turn to talk about the games we liked in 2018. So let me ask you, Otakunomike, what were your top 3 games of 2018?
Well, the Pitts voting actually let me think about the games because I realized I didn't have many bad games this year, and my best game I think had to go with Valkyria Chronicles 4, which I talked about a lot throughout the last few months of playing it, but honestly, for what the series was at after the less talked about, the better Valkyria Revolutions, 4 was such a...
Oh yeah, I heard that game was really bad.
Yeah. It was really bad. It was really
I think I heard that from you.
And guess what?
Valkyria
Chronicles 2 was also pretty bad.
Valkyria Chronicles 2 is a very interesting situation where I'll avoid too much of a segue to say that has a lot of improvements and one very awful holdback that stops it.
I think the story
grind
is
system is
garbage.
actually a good game.
I think the story is garbage. Garbage fire, trash fire, garbage.
It's an okay story. It's not great.
No,
Like
oh my
anime
God,
garbage
no.
trash fire, or just like regular garbage
It's a
trash
very
fire? Those are two different
anime
things.
story. I'll say that.
It's the
True.
most anime story. Like it's a very like stereotypical, very
Oh,
flat.
I live for that shit though.
Well,
'cause
yeah,
I'm a
you
huge
do.
anime.
Because it
I
hurts
mean-
the children. I think that's like one of the lines.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's good for a laugh, but it's not serious in any way. Like the first one was pretty good in some ways. Like it was intense and had some good moments.
Which
I've
is
heard
where I think
VC4
the
kinda goes
fourth one
back to that
succeeds, is
storytelling.
it takes a lot of the gameplay improvements, doesn't go quite as far as 2 went with its gameplay improvements, which had a lot of really good stuff, but improves from the troublesome issues that 1 sometimes has, where it can be a very linear game, and the grind can be really bad at 1, just because the skirmish missions don't give you much XP or money to work with. 4 improves a lot of the gameplay, gives you a lot of new stuff to do, and the missions themselves are such a huge improvement over what the series has seen so far, where they're dynamic. The battles and the level setup is actually really good for where you have to go and what you have to do. The story's okay. It's not as good as 1, but it's better than 2.
Bad the Revolutions.
Yeah, okay, I can write in 5 minutes a story better than Revolutions, and I can write it about how bad Revolution's story is and how stupid it is, and I feel stupider for having played Revolutions.
That's the.
I feel stupider for having heard you talk about Revolutions. So the VC4. What else did you like from 2018?
So, Total War Thrones of Britannia, I know the last 2 years I've had Total War games on my top 3 list, and with Total War 3 Kingdoms coming out next year, they're looking for a 4-peat here, because I may be a sucker for this series. Thrones of Britannia...
I'm getting that sense.
Thrones of Britannia, though, is kind of was a question mark when it came out, because it was marketed as a Total War saga. It was pointedly very small compared to the previous games. There's no special hero agents in the game at all. The building structures there's far fewer of them. It's 9th century Britain, so you're in the Dark Ages. There isn't exactly much you're building anyways, but it works as a very good introduction into this series, as well as something that anybody who's a veteran can jump into and kind of just play through much quicker than previous games.
So it's more like an arcade type thing, right? Arcade mode, maybe?
A little bit. It's not quite that streamed down. I mean, what I'm saying quicker is it's still like, I'm trying to think what my playthrough of it was. It was still like 30 to 40 hours compared to like 50 hours to complete Total War Warhammer's campaign.
Yeah, I'm a Total War junkie as well, and I'm interested in the Warhammer stuff, but it feels a little. I prefer the historical stuff just as like a setting.
I thought you said I'm a Total War junkie and not Total War junkie.
So Warhammer actually did a lot of interesting things with it, where they really worked with the lore of Warhammer. So it's a very fantasy game, but it works as both a Total War game and a Warhammer game, with implementing the spell system in an interesting way and implementing all the different buildings and unique structures. You get like the various faction capitals can build unique structures from the Warhammer fan lore, and it helps you do stuff too. And it also let them take a lot of the series forward with leveling systems, especially by Warhammer 2, where they'd improved a lot of the leveling and experience systems for the heroes and the generals. So
by the time you get to Britannia, though, I mean, are you just like playing the battles and then like it's kind of minimizing?
There's still world building. It's just like each town and city has an assigned designation of what it is. Like this is a farming village or this is a mining village, and depending on what they're assigned depends on what structures you can build there. So you can only build certain things in mining villages, like smiths and whatnot. And the cities, you need certain villages in the province in order to be able to build like a smith in that city.
Oh, okay. So it's like streamlined, but it's still I see what you
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's a little bit smaller in what the building queue is, and there's still not a whole wide variety like there has been in past games. And I mean, again, you're 9th century Britain, so most of the units are pretty similar to one another. Somebody may be using a spear versus somebody using an axe, but it's not like Rome where you had a Roman legionnaire versus, a Celtic tribesman where the stat difference was massive.
Gotcha.
So it works for pretty
Sorry,
much
go ahead.
everybody of the series is something to like and throw into Britannia there. My third game was Battletech, which is a game I wasn't even expecting to buy this year. It totally took me by surprise by
So what is Battletech? I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it.
So I believe it started actually in the 80s as like a tabletop game. I know there was like Mech Warrior is actually a spin-off of Battletech, so they had some old computer game knockoffs too, where basically you're the leader of a mercenary company of giant mechs going around during an interstellar war, serving one of the sides and fighting a bunch of other giant mechs, and that's it.
It's just robot on robot action? Like, is it
That's
strategy?
It does have
Strategy, or is it like Mech Warrior?
It's Mech Warrior and Mech Commander, I think, spun out of BattleTech, where it's BattleTech.
Yeah, they're all connected.
Yeah, BattleTech. I haven't played one of these games in a long time. I'm sure people are going to call me out, but I think that BattleTech is more about managing the clan almost. Like, so there's like all these like individual clans who go out and they work kind of like as like freelancer companies to go solve problems, right? Various companies hire them to do things. But Mech Warrior was more like you are that pilot, doing that. Mech Commander is more like you're controlling your 3 or 4 mechs on the battlefield. I think that BattleTech denotes it's more of a strategy game. Like a turn-based or something. So I think that's how they've traditionally used those names for games. I don't know how true it holds.
It's a
still.
Paradox game, actually.
Well,
Right.
The reason
Paradox
one,
published it, sorry.
This one does play as a strategy game where it's turn-based, where you've got your 4 mechs fighting against your other mechs, and has a very interesting element where, as the leader of a mercenary company, you've got the ship that you're upgrading throughout, and you have to pay your pilots and train them, and then you have to pay upkeep on them because you have to pay their monthly salaries. But
yeah, the reason I know this is because there's like a lot of like rights issues with this particular series, right? So like the Mech Commander, the Mech Warrior, and the BattleTech licenses are all kind of out there, right? Like, so I think the reason they were able to make a BattleTech, but Mech Warrior and Mech Commander have been stuck in development hell forever is because the rights are so different. So I don't think you could make a first-person mech game, but you can make a BattleTech game, and that's what this is.
Well, Mech Warrior 5 is in development, though, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I've heard that for 20
Don't
years.
know about Mech Commander, but so this is interesting. It looks like It looks like kind of XCOM-ish almost.
Yeah, it
in
looks
terms of
very
how you
cool.
manage
a
things
little bit,
between
yeah,
missions.
because like your pilots can get permanently killed. If their mechs get destroyed in combat, they can get wounded, possibly killed, and it's really annoying when a veteran pilot gets killed. I may have restarted a few dozen times, save scum some missions just because I like my starting 4. But
You can save scum, though, right?
yeah, a little. Thankfully, you can save scum in the middle of combat because there's definitely a couple story missions which little brutal at times if you're not prepared for them. So I did like the mercenary company elements of it. It adds a lot of character when you're trying to upgrade your ship. They give you stuff like various crew members give you suggestions on why you should upgrade one thing versus another at the time, and it helps you get the feel that you're the leader of these people and that they're actual people, especially when the sole argument for building the 0G pool is it's a 0G pool. What more do we need to say? Because
I love that it's kind of got like it takes off the stuffy trappings of these kinds of games where usually like some government official who's defending against some alien threat or something. I like that it's kind of scrappy.
Right, and it does that not just with the upgrades, but also you get various dilemmas, for lack of a better term, where it's like something happens and you have to make a choice about it. It's like you run into some pirates, do you pay them off, or do you try and fight them, or do you run away? Sometimes if you have upgrades, like certain relations with the planetary governors that you're in, you can call on them for help for some of the dilemmas.
That's cool.
Sometimes
so
you
it's
find
got
your
choice
crew
of
skinny
consequence,
dipping
like
into the
Telltale.
0G pool at night, and you have to decide whether or not you should ban it or just ignore it.
I say whatever shenanigans go down in the 0G pool, you just let them happen.
That's what I did, and it boosted morale for the whole company. So hey,
Yeah, let those robots go to town on each other. Wait, do they fit in the pool, or is it like the pilots who... You know what? I don't know why I'm asking this. But yeah, this seems like a really interesting game. I've been trying to get like back into strategy games because I bounced pretty hard off XCOM. So this looks like something that would be up my alley.
Yeah, it's really good as kind of a little smaller of a strategy because you only have 4 pilots. It does get a little annoying sometimes because you can fight, 7, 8 enemies at once. And in that case, they're kind of ganging up on you the way the initiative order works, and it feels a little unfair in that regard. By the end, though, when you get the super heavy suits, it kind of balances out because you can kill a lot of those smaller suits in like one shot.
Okay, so it's a little bit like, you know, what it reminds me of like a tactical strategy game where you have a very small team. This is gonna sound really stupid. It reminds me a little bit of like Mario plus Rabbids.
Yeah, that everybody says that game was surprisingly deep as far as the strategic part of it.
Yeah, it's surprisingly deep, and you're commanding essentially a very small number of units, and you can be potentially fighting a lot more at once. So again, it's probably very dissimilar, but I like the idea. I like the idea of managing like a small number of units and fighting.
Same thing.
Than strategizing deeply on that small number of units versus strategizing very shallowly on a large number of units. But I don't know. That's just my preference. Mm. Yeah, so seems like a good batch of games, Mike.
Yep.
All right. Kappa, what are your favorite games of the year?
Oh, boy. I've been worried about talking about this. Number 3, Destiny Forsaken. I know you guys are sick of me talking. I don't care. It's such a fucking good game. The expansion is so good. It's just been... What they've been doing is kind of a drip of content rather than just giant expansions and DLCs. They've been getting the lore put together in a much more coherent way. The core gameplay is still there. It's still amazing for what it is. It's such a good game. I'm so happy with where it is, and I'm hoping that they learn a lot of these lessons and don't start over from scratch with Destiny 3, where they have to prove to the community all over again they know what they're doing. But yeah, I can't. I'm really surprised with where it is and liking where it's ended up. Yeah, Destiny, of course. So I counted Forsaken as all. It's basically a new year, new season, new everything else. That's why I'm.
Yeah, new like expansion.
Yeah. My second one is Odyssey. I know last year my Origin was my game of the year last year, so this feels kind of like if I really tore myself up between saying Odyssey and Origin again between these two, but Odyssey is just such a pure RPG. I've tried to really tell people who say, "Oh, I don't like Assassin's Creed games." Like, this is the part where you can jump back in because you were playing a historical RPG at this point. There's numbers, there's things that go up and down, there's stats, there's skills, there's armor and weapons that,
There's romance.
Yeah, there's
romance.
Everything you'd want in a traditional RPG is right back into it. Gorgeous to look at.
There's
writing.
romance and there's romance.
Yeah, there's I'm just gonna fuck you now. Then there's I want to fall in love with you, and the game does both very liberally. Cassandra's really well written, a really good character, really interesting. I know a lot of people talk about it's hard to get these dual protagonists right because you can play either as a male or female protagonist.
I haven't heard anyone talking about the male protagonist this time around.
It's interesting.
What's his name? Alexios?
Yeah, it's interesting because almost everybody on the Avocado plays as Cassandra, whereas I think they just said that 2 out of 3 people play as the male one. But I mean, either way, the writing for her is fantastic. I mean, just kind of like if it's a throwback to the Ezio style of I'm here to solve people's problems, and if they annoy me, I'm gonna let them know they're annoying me. I'm not like. I don't know if you guys how much you stuck with the series, but like Connor was almost too good to a fault, like to the point where he was boring, And then
I never made it past Brotherhood. Sorry.
Yeah, and then you start
I heard a lot of bad things about the third game.
Yeah, so this is a very I think Origin was a half step into a full RPG, and Odyssey is a full on. We are not the Assassin's Creed games you remember playing. I mean, yes, there's still stealth assassinations and stuff, but you can't assassinate everybody if your assassination skill isn't high enough. You just basically do a good amount of damage to the guy, but nope, it's still fight time if your skill isn't there. And I think it's a smart direction to take the series. It makes it feel like its own thing, and it's
a separate thing from like Ubisoft had sort of homogenized a lot of their games.
Yes.
And I feel like now they're kind of branching off into their own things.
And Ubisoft doesn't really do pure RPG. If you look around, a lot of their stuff isn't, pure RPG. This one feels like they're doing something that you would normally think like a BioWare or somebody would do. It's a very pure RPG. It's numbers, it's figures, it's relationships. There's party members, kind of, on your ship. They'll have different reactions. You can take them along with you. It's interesting. I mean, it's one of those things where I think that if you can convince people to try it again if they've given up after Syndicate or Unity or 3 or even people who fell off during Brotherhood or whatever, I think now's the time to do it because what you're getting isn't an assassin-y game. It's a straight up historical RPG that they do an amazing job with world building and writing and characters that if you just like that genre, you should give it a shot.
So, one question. Do you need to play Origins before playing Odyssey?
No, there's still the framing device of the modern day, but they've become more and more compact so that there's not an overarching story anymore. Unless you
I know some people really liked it, but I never cared for it, like for the anime stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm the one guy who likes the end.
Yeah, I know.
I'm that guy.
It's very unobtrusive now. Like, you can play hours of this game without ever having to step out of the Animus. It's not like it was where it was like every 20 minutes it's like, okay, get out of the Animus. Time to, like, I can't remember the last time I've gotten out of the Animus in my Odyssey game to go to the real world, but you always can. So, like, it's like to Merve's point, if you want to, like, stop, there's those emails that kind of go back and forth, and it's like, oh, hey, here's what's going on in the real world as reflected to what you saw in the game world, So you're subtly advancing that story in a way that if you want to follow it, you still can. So I would say if you want the story, it's there. If you don't want it, you literally got to go look for it. So it's not something that's going to get in your way of playing if you're not feeling it. But yeah, I really love what they've done with the game world. I'm not 100% finished, but they're adding new stuff every single week, and some of it's small, some of it's big. So a lot like Destiny, I feel like there's a lot of content drips that keep the game interesting and fresh. And it's not just DLC stuff, it's a lot of free stuff like go fight this god or go explore this underwater layer or stuff like that I'm really enjoying.
Yeah, that content drip feed that some games have started doing, I feel actually helps maintain my interest.
Yeah,
like it worked very well for Mario Tennis Aces this year, and it helps me keep invested, especially when I could just put the game down and move on to something else.
And I think Odyssey in particular has learned some of its lessons from Origin, where the content's not time gated anymore. So once they add it, it's there. You can always just go do it. Like a lot of the stuff they were doing before was like, okay, well, this weekend only go fight Poseidon. They're still doing some of that, to try to like have like big XP weekends or stuff like that. But for the most part, what they're really doing is just letting you play and then come back and do certain things. So yeah, that was my number 2. My number 1 is Red Dead Redemption, and this is in all the years I've been. No, not 2.
RDR2.
Yeah.
Dang it.
In all the years I've been picking Game of the Years, this is probably like, if I could describe it as like my least favorite Game of the Year, that's exactly how I would describe it.
Oh
Like,
man, that's a huge burn.
It's a very, very good game. It's technically
It is.
almost perfect. There's lots of good story and writing and stuff going on, but like, there's something about it where like 20 minutes into it, I just want to turn it the fuck off.
yeah, I'm the same way. Exactly. What is that? I don't know.
I don't know. It's like, okay,
I feel very tired playing it. I don't know why.
Then how did it end up your number 1?
So here's the thing. Like, I think in this case, I'm respecting it more than my other 3 because Destiny's an expansion, right? And I'm already predisposed to love it. Odyssey feels like, it took what my Game of the Year last year did, Origin did, and kind of iterated on it, but in a really good way that I really enjoy. God of War left me cold. I know that was, on my avocado list, that was my number 4, but it left me very cold in a way that like I had to force myself to finish it. And for all the bullshit about how great it is with your son and stuff, it feels very forced to me. I didn't feel a lot of the moments that people say, oh, well, this moment was so amazing. I just didn't really have that connection in a lot of ways. I don't know. So out of all these games, they all were either expansions, sequels, or, Red Dead, I think, does the most with a game I've seen in a long time. and it can be a fun world just to go get lost in and hunt bears and fish and stuff like that. But I have to force myself to go play the next story mission because it's like, as formulaic as Rockstar is, you think they would stop being so formulaic with the story. Everybody knows where this story's going, halfway into it, and you just see it. You see all the signposts up ahead, but it's a kind of game where there's no choice. It's all on rails. So, do I want to, stop having all these fun times fishing, hunting bears, doing all this stuff with these people, and instead go advance the story that I really don't feel like playing, So I don't know. Every time I boot it up, it's just like I sit there in my chair, I grab a beer, and I'm ready to play it, and I get 30 minutes into it, I'm like, let's go see what the fuck's going on in Destiny.
So, it's also the controls, I think. Some of it feels kind of antiquated. Yeah.
Yep. And you fight the controls for huge parts of it. And so, I'm talking about this game like it's not my game of the year, but it weirdly is. Like with all these things, I still feel compelled to just get on. But like, the best way I could describe it is that I play Red Dead almost like it's like an MMO, right? Like I don't even care what's going on with Dutch and the gang or whatever. I log in, I do whatever bear stuff, or go buy guns, or go rob people, or do whatever I'm going to do, and then I log off. And the story may or well not even exist for me at this point. I'll eventually finish it. Don't get me wrong, But I'm playing this game like a free world open MMO where I go do what I want and I have a great time while I'm doing it. But as far as the story and the game itself, I see where it's coming a mile away. And I'm not even saying like I've been spoiled. Like, yeah, I know what's going to happen. Dutch is an asshole. It's all right there in the writing, Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, like the best way I can describe it is it's like I was the least convinced I've been in a long time writing this as my game of the year. So. It's not a bad game. I really think that just for the splendor, for the technical masterpiece that it is, I think everybody should give it a shot. But, don't let it being my game of the year, come off as some ringing endorsement. There's a lot of other ones where I'd probably say, well, are you into this first before you really get into that, what Red Dead was?
Huh. So that's a pretty comprehensive list. Kind of hit the big guns of the year, I'd say. Compared to, I think, what some, at least my list is going to be.
Google half a year.
Yeah.
This isn't even a game.
But before we get to that, Science, what were your favorite games of the year?
Oh, well, okay. Well, number 3, we're going 3-1, of course. It's the most exciting. Number 3, Return of the Obra Dinn.
That game that looks like it was built on a PC from 1993.
Yeah. It looks. It has like the people are describing it like dot matrix like kind of style. Like it looks. Okay, the whole game looks like as if you were taking a picture with your Game Boy camera, the original Game Boy camera. That was I don't know if you ever had one, but it had a camera.
It's a little young for that one.
Okay, so
I'm just like beyond the age for it.
Okay, so but the original Game Boy graphics. It was like a weird greenish hue. Like you can make it greenish hue in this game, but either way, like the whole game looks kind of like a very strange black and white monochromatic look. That kind of the shadows are just kind of like everything is colored in by dots, not by like hard shadows, but like everything is like dotted in.
I've seen the screenshots.
Yeah, it's very difficult to describe, but it's very cool.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Also, the music is fantastic. It's like it's very like appropriate for the era of the plot, because the game is happening in 1809, I think, or 1806 or something like that, and the music is fantastic. It's like dun, 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 dun. It's like you are sailing. It's great. And the game is about basically this ship, the Obra Dinn, has disappeared for a couple of years and nobody has heard about it. And then it kind of comes back and all of its crew is missing and only a couple of dead bodies are found aboard and they're skeletons. And you are tasked with finding out what happened, and you have this magic item that gets you this ability to enter the last couple of seconds of somebody's life. Like when you find a body, you can kind of touch it with this device that looks kind of like a compass. And it just kind of transports you into the last seconds of that person's life, which is always kind of like a couple of seconds of audio recording during a black screen, which is stylishly done because the subtitles are like displayed in the middle of the screen, and the Foley work is amazing. Also, the voice acting is pretty great. All of them are like hardened.
Sounds like Pushing Daisies, the video game.
Yeah, it also sounds like, I don't know if you ever heard of it, but Cryostasis. It came out in 2009. It was the very same concept. An old abandoned ship, and you go into it, and a bunch of dead bodies, and when you touch them, you kind of like go into the last seconds of their life. But this is way better made.
Okay, or almost like, this is going to be a really weird reference, it's almost like Hate Plus.
oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. Anyway, it's it's very well done.
I haven't thought about that game in a long time. So.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers Christine Love games, although they're actually very good.
Yeah, I remember. Plus, yeah. Anyway, it's very well done. It's basically like a deduction Sudoku, so or like Picross deduction, because you get like the element that you have to figure out. Each of the 60-person crew, you have to figure out their name, the way they died, and who killed them. Those are the three information you have to put into their like file. And every person on this board is like, you can get into their final memories, or most of them actually, and you can kind of figure out everyone else by the process of elimination. And and you also figure out some of them, like, oh, it's obvious how they died, but you don't know who killed them because it's not clear. And also sometimes it's like,
you have to deduce.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm not sure how this guy died, but I think he was like stabbed, because in the other memory I saw this guy like plunging a knife to his back. And like you have to cross-reference a couple of memories, and it's really cool. It's
so you're doing this with like a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's very cool. If you like deduction and like playing, detective, you will love this game, because it doesn't hold your hand at all. You just kind of like, it's all up to you. You have to really be good at what you've done. And the one thing what it does well is like, it doesn't tell you if your guess was correct. It tells you after 3 correct guesses that you had 3 correct guesses. So you can't just like guess like, I'm gonna guess he did this and this guy killed him.
You can't just do trial and error.
Yeah, because it just won't just tell you.
Anything.
Yeah, it won't tell you at the second you do it. It's just going to tell you after 3 correct guesses. You're like, oh, you guessed 3 guys correctly. I'm going to give you 3 notches on this thing that keeps you progress. So yeah, that's a fantastic game. If you like deduction, you definitely.
From the same guy who made Papers, Please, right?
Yep. Also, very
interesting.
Let me ask you something a little weird. Like physically, how did it feel to play the game? Like, was it like, I've heard a lot of people like play it like kind of like feeling sick or like their eyes hurting and stuff like that.
No, not at all. It's
okay.
Absolutely doesn't affect me that way. I think that like it's sometimes very stunning. I think like it had one of the best, I think the best moment of the year in a game for me at one point. I ain't gonna spoil it for you, but one time where the screen goes, because when you enter somebody's dead body. That sounds gross, but you know what I mean. The screen is black, and you have the Foley work of there are a couple of last seconds, and then screen comes out of black, and you get to see like their last second of life on a pause screen. Like everything is paused.
That's really cool.
Like, yeah, and you can walk around the scene, and you can like kind of. Basically, most of the deduction comes out of like walking around this paused scene where you can just kind of see who shots who and what happened. And one of the times it happens, it's just like a really shocking moment of what's happening, and it was like, holy shit. So yeah, definitely give it a shot. It's definitely one of the most unique games I've played in a long while.
Yeah,
that sounds really cool
for sure.
Yeah.
So what was your number 2?
Yeah, my number 2 is Florence, a game for iOS and Android that came out in February this year, I think.
I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, it's a small little game, tiny game. It takes about like 20 to 30 minutes to play through it. It doesn't cost a lot. It costs like $2-3 to get it on Android/iOS. It's tough to describe. It's like a visual novel, but without nobody speaks any words ever. It just all the story is presented all through these like little tasks that you do on your phone. It's so difficult to describe. Basically, okay, so I'm going to describe one scene. You are Florence, and you have a boyfriend that you just recently started dating, and you kind of okay, so you have a first fight with him, and you have to keep connecting these little puzzle pieces of dialogue bubbles that you shoot, it's very difficult to explain. Okay, so oh boy, you have puzzles that you have to complete in order to win the argument with this boyfriend. So you kind of piece together these word bubbles. There's no words in those bubbles. You just kind of piece together the shapes, and you kind of have to keep doing that faster than they can, and you kind of win the argument. And that's one example of a puzzle in a game. There's also a bunch of tiny little things that you do. It's okay, so most of it is very intuitive, and it's what you would see in other games, very tiny little bits and pieces. Sometimes you just kind of tap on things to complete tasks. You have to clean your room, and you tap on your shoes to get those shoes in your cupboard, and you're moving into somebody, and you kind of just swipe things onto drawers and other stuff. It's difficult to explain exactly, but I think I'm maybe making sense when I'm saying this, right? Can you get it?
I will say the Wikipedia page for it actually shows a picture of some of the puzzles, so it makes sense. You can actually see the puzzle, what's going on.
Yeah,
it's one of those things like Catherine, where you can't explain it until you've seen it. No, so you're climbing a mountain with a pillow.
It's very difficult. But the thing about Florence is it's a story that's presented without any words in it. There's one sentence, I think, or two sentences in the whole story, and it's all presented in sometimes all of the puzzles, all of the little tasks that you do are representative of what's happening in the game, right? So either your emotions or what Florence is thinking about. Sometimes they're very abstract in a way to show you how her relationship with this guy is going, and it's very clever in that it really subconsciously tries to show you by way of you doing these tasks, these little puzzles of her feeling towards her relationship or whatever she's feeling right now. So when you're trying,
it's almost like a collection of mini games that you're doing that kind of mirror her development.
Exactly. And it's not only that, it's even the little bit simple tasks, your boyfriend is basically a kind of a good artist. He plays music on I think the viola or something, and
cello,
he is
looks like.
Oh yeah, cello. There you go. And he doesn't really want to go through with applying to school. And in one of the puzzles, you gotta just kind of really it's a weird strength contest where you're just tapping the screen to push him into applying to the music school, and things get more complicated. When the relationship is going well, the puzzles are very easy. But when the relationship is going badly, the puzzle gets harder and harder. and sometimes they're almost impossible to finish, and it's like sometimes it's frustrating deliberately, like when you're frustrated with your boyfriend, it's like it's very frustrating to like keep the puzzles like from sliding away or something.
Those games must be really hard to make, because there's so many of these like games now where like a whole game is designed around like a bunch of mini games that if they don't work, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you got a cool story there that people might never see if they can't nail these mini games,
Yeah, and they're very intuitive.
I'll try to say about that in a bit.
Yeah, and they're very intuitive. It's not like a mini game collection. It feels different. It like has these through lines in these puzzles that kind of like connect certain emotions and feelings throughout the story, and like it like has a setup and a payoff with each puzzle almost feels like, and it's very intelligent in what it does. And so there's only one frustrating puzzle in the game, and it's deliberately frustrating, as I said. It's very cool, and it's one of those games that you can show to a person that doesn't play games at all, and it's very intuitive because it's all sliding based.
They'll pick up how to do it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And the story is very nice and affecting and emotional, and as I said, 20 minutes and you're done with it, and it stays with you. I still think about some of the things that happen in it. It's very good. It's very hard to describe this game, but if you have like $3 and like want to like see a very cool experimental game that does like cool things with narrative and gameplay, you gotta see this game.
I'll check it out once I upgrade my iPhone to actually be able to run it.
Yeah.
So what was your number one game?
Yeah, that one was very difficult to explain. My number one game will be much simpler because it's Celeste.
That game.
Yeah, it's a very good game about like a platformer, like a kind of a masocore platformer, if you're familiar with that term. But it's a little bit like, when it comes to gameplay, a little bit like Super Meat Boy, but way less intense. But it has like little elements, like trial rooms where you have to like figure out the puzzle solution, like it's basically a jumping puzzle, right? So you gotta have to wall bounce here, and then air dash there, and you collect the thing.
Looks almost Guacamelee-ish in the way it's set up.
It's very pretty, and the game is about like climbing this mountain. You're this main character that wants to climb this mountain, and the game is basically about like anxiety and like feeling of distress and like kind of depression, and it's very well written for a game like a platformer that doesn't look like it's based. It's into like it's about like. It doesn't look like it's well written. It doesn't look like there's a lot of story to it, but the plot is very interesting. Like the characters are endearing, and it's all. I would say that it's one of the better written characters when it comes to like anxiety and depression that I've seen in video games in a long time, maybe ever.
It's something that can occasionally feel a bit exploitative.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they've managed to do it well here.
Absolutely doesn't feel exploitative. It does absolutely. It feels like a very personal story. Like whoever made this game, like definitely has the same problems. Definitely deals with them, and it's a story also like about handling these problems, and it's a very written in a very like. It feels
very
like
affecting
and it very much feels like something that you definitely can do. Like I'm not saying it's going to cure your anxiety or anything, but it definitely feels like something that someone describes how they live with anxiety and how they are able to
to cope
with it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's excellent game. The gameplay is also very snappy, very, very responsive and addictive gameplay. And I kind of screwed up my wrist playing it because it's very sometimes. And I played it like for hours and hours over one weekend, and I couldn't move my hand for like 2 weeks afterwards.
I might have to give this game a try. this might sound crazy, guys, but I've kind of burned myself out on indie platformers. Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
This
Oh
was,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
I got
Like,
that feeling this year.
it was like Braid, and then there's like it's been like a nonstop avalanche of sort of games, and I'm just
Yeah,
I think the problem is some of them are good, and some of them are just
So I have to
not.
wait for like overwhelming like what you
Yeah.
guys are doing right now. Like, okay, this is one of the ones that are worth it, because so many of the other ones are just like I get into it, I'm like, I don't know, but this sounds like like a really interesting game. You had me once you started about how the controls are responsive, because that's one of my biggest complaints about those kind of games.
It's very snappy. It's very like you feel very good playing this game. Like it's very as I said, like a little bit Super Meat Boyish, but less slidey. I always felt like Super Meat Boy was a little bit too slidey, and this is like precise, very very precise platforming.
Yeah.
And
That's good to hear.
yeah, it's excellent.
And, okay, so yeah, I guess those are your top 3 games of the year.
Yeah.
I should probably mention what mine are. Clocking in at number 3 is this game called Quarantine Circular, which is the quasi-sequel to an earlier game called Subsurface Circular. For those of you who don't know, Mike Bethel is the guy who made Thomas Was Alone. Then he made a follow-up called, well, not a follow-up, another game called Volume. And then he started making these really short narrative adventures with branching narrative. The first being Subsurface Circular, second set in the same world, but not really a sequel, was Quarantine Circular. It's an interesting game. It's, there's no voice or anything. Nothing's voice. It's all text dialogue. But, the events are kind of animated in front of you. It's a little bit difficult to describe. But let's just say it does the whole idea of branching narrative very well. Also makes very good use of multiple perspectives. So each chapter of the game you play through as a different character. Sometimes you'll end up playing sort of two sides of the same conversation. Yeah, it's a very interesting setup. I don't really want to spoil the plot. All I'll say is that it takes place in the future, and there are robots and aliens.
Neat.
Yeah. Robots and aliens.
Are there
If robots
robot
and
aliens or
are-
alien robots or
Maybe.
Maybe.
Ah,
From I'm gonna say like from all of from the 3 games you listed on your top 3, this is the one that I just never heard of. Like the 2 other I've heard of, but this one I first time I've heard about it.
Merv's always good for that. You always learn some his end of year list, some deep dive into some.
There's
browser
always some
game
bizarre
or-
shit
Yeah.
on my year-end list.
I did see like the logo Quarantine Circular. I saw those 2 yellow triangles. I think on Steam. Like Steam,
Yeah.
like did try to push this game on me one time, and I'm always ignoring Steam. So sorry, Quarantine Circular. I was just like,
Well, it's by the same guy who made Thomas Was Alone.
Oh,
so
cool.
you know it's quality.
Oh,
It's got the
fantastic.
pedigree.
oh,
It's also available on Switch now if you want to play it on the go.
neat.
Yeah, so again, I don't want to spoil very much of it, also because I don't remember it super well. But I would recommend if you're into these sort of interactive narrative adventures, I'd highly recommend it.
Definitely will check it out.
All right, number 2 on the list is a game called Chucho.
Yeah, Chucho, love it.
Chucho.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is an interesting game because it comes from Amanita Design.
Love those
folks
guys.
who made Samarost and Botanicula. And if I'm being blunt, I was not a huge fan of their earlier work.
Oh, really? Botanicula is so good, though.
I would say it's a little bit obtuse.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's less obtuse than their earlier games, which are even more obtuse.
Okay, that's fair. What I will say that I really like about... Okay, so I should clarify. Amanita Design specializes in adventure games with very sort of quirky animation. It doesn't feel like you're playing a video game. It feels like you're kind of clicking through an animated film. It's hard to describe.
Yeah. It's not harder to describe than I was describing Florence, because I still feel really bad about that.
Yeah. So what I will say is that their previous games sort of had these very fiendishly difficult, very huge puzzles. And Chucho takes all the quirky animation and the goofy humor that Amanita is known for. And instead of making these gigantic, really complicated adventure game, like really obtuse, opaque adventure game puzzles, it just splits everything into these bite-sized challenges. So these single-screen or double-screen puzzles that are fairly simple to solve, though they do have some of them are a little bit tricky. And it just rewards you instantly. So you solve a puzzle and then you're rewarded with a really funny sequence. So the feedback loop of playing through the game is really nice. And they kind of vary it up with not just these point-and-click adventures, but then they also start throwing in weird other mini-games that are references to things like Breakout and like 2D platformers. So they've really kind of varied things up. I would say also, if you have kids, probably a good game to play with them.
Yeah. Also, say something about the audio design, because that's the best thing about these games. Like all of
the audio. There's a lot of and ahs. And
all of
like
the
that.
sounds are basically made with like mouth sounds. Like all of these.
Yeah,
sounds
it's basically humans making funny sound effects.
I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Amanita has definitely carved themselves a little quirky niche. I mean, haven't they? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
they've been doing stuff for a while now. I think the first one I played from them had to have been, Machinarium, right? That was them. Yeah.
I think that was them.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Yeah, that was them. I think maybe their best game. But I'm not saying anything bad about Botanicula, but or Chuchel, but Machinarium definitely was like a more of a adventure game, and this is more like storybook. Yeah, it's still all of them very good. Still, pretty good, very very good, all of them.
Yeah, they definitely.
What's your number one?
Yeah, they definitely know what they do well, and they do it very well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings me to my number one game of the year, which I thought I'd end up liking, but I didn't think it would end up working as well as it did. It's a game called Yoku's Island Express. Mm-hmm. And this is going to sound really weird for those of you who haven't heard of it. It's a pinball Metroidvania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that overplayed genre.
Another one?
Jesus.
Yeah, so the way it works is that instead of having a jump button, you can move left or right, and when you need to elevate yourself, you have to find a flipper and activate that flipper to kind of flip you up to another platform. So that's how they do the exploration in the game, is you use pinball elements to move you through the levels, and then every few screens or so you'll run into sort of a pinball table challenge where you have to hit certain items on the table to activate certain levers or doodads or lights, and that'll open a path so you can get to the next part of the level. Very clever the way they've designed this, in that, trying to figure out what mobility looks like when you don't have a jump button, but you still want to have platforming elements is really tricky. Mm-hmm. But the people at Via Gorilla, the studio that made this, did a really good job of it. I should also point out that it's got this very almost hand-painted art style. It's like a slightly quirkier version of Ori and the Blind Forest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The way they've done the art. It's really, really beautiful.
Cool.
So if the idea of a pinball Metroidvania at all appeals to you in any way, I would recommend giving it a go.
Sounds great.
And the best thing that could be said about Yoko's is it takes like less than 10 hours to beat. It's a fast game. So if you're uncertain about it, you're not committing a lot of time to it either.
Yeah, so if you're on the fence, it doesn't take very long to get through, as Mike says. So I would definitely give it.
And also, it's on sale right now on Steam, 50% off.
It probably won't be on sale by the time this comes out.
It definitely won't.
But it's on sale when we're recording this. So,
No, but it's
just go back
frequently
in time and buy it.
it's frequently on sale. I saw it on sale a couple of times, so you'll probably you'll probably.
Oh yeah, I've seen BattleTech on sale a bunch too. By the way, from the early recommendation, that one's pretty reasonably on sale.
Yeah. I saw Celeste on sale on Switch. I think it's a great Switch game. Also, like if you have a Switch.
Oh, nice. And Yoku's also available for Switch if you want to play it on the go.
Hell yeah.
All right, so that's our best games of the year. Now let's talk about the less good games of the year. The worst games.
I'm
the
calling
most
them my
disappointing
disappointments. I'm not going all worst, but I'm just...
I'm going for worse.
The games
but,
that just couldn't.
Yeah,
But
there you
very
go.
the
much
games
want.
that just weren't all there.
Yeah.
So Kappa, you seem like you're eager to talk
I'm
about
always,
your
this is my
disappointments.
favorite thing to talk about. All right, so again, I'm sticking with disappointment. I'm not going full on worst, but let's go with my number 3 biggest disappointment is Sea of Thieves.
Oh my god, you have 3 biggest disappointments?
Yes,
That's a lot. That's more than I do.
Well, you better get ready. Buckle in, because I think one of them you guys are probably going to really disagree with me, and then everybody else is going to agree with the other one. But, man, Sea of Thieves, guys, this was like Rare's return to form. You know, here they are, big major. They had all the time in the world to do what they wanted with it, and they basically come out the gates with what would probably have been a pretty sparse beta. I was so into this game, I went to the midnight launch for it. My kid won a whole bunch of stuff because he dressed like a pirate. We had a really good time, and then we went to go play it at the Microsoft store, and the servers were down, and they stayed down the entire first day. The servers never came back up. So good launch. The game itself, I mean, it's one of those games where you create your own content, right? And in the beginning, the content that was being created was really just trolling people. I mean, it was just basically fucking around with each other and not really getting anything done. I luckily found a good crew of people. We started to have a little bit more fun. Then it was just glitches after glitches after glitches. We would grind and find out that there was no real point to the grind, which is okay for most games, right? But this game had no reason to keep playing, which is a problem for a game that wants you to keep playing because it's a multiplayer game, right? So the seas started getting more and more depopulated. They started to rush some DLC out. Some of it was good, some of it was awful. Try to make up it with some events that were really ho-hum. And I think the game is kind of coming back around again, but it's never going to get that population back. And it's going to more or less just kind of, be a game.
Die on the vine.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sees spikes when it goes on like Xbox Game Pass or games with gold. But for what could have been, Pirates should be more of a genre. I'm going to tell you guys straight up. There should be about 1 million times more pirate games than there are. And this one seemed to have a lot in its pedigree and its budget and everything else that just, oh man, did it not deliver for me.
Maybe so it was a neat idea.
It's definitely a neat idea, poorly executed, which I think has been kind of Rare's thing, unfortunately, for a while now, right? Yeah. I mean, like, they're kind of getting into that, well, this is what they do now. They've got a cool idea, but they can't really nail it like they used to have been.
Had they had, like, a good game since Perfect Dark?
Yeah,
Viva Pinata, maybe?
Ukulele?
I mean,
was, to be fair, that was a different studio.
Yeah, I know.
It
just looks like a Rare game.
But I mean,
but Viva Pinata, definitely one of the best.
Okay. Oh, so Ukulele was garbage.
I was joking.
But
Platonic, that's the name. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Rare's got to have like at least the knowledge of what they used to be, what people saw them as, and what they are now, right? I mean, like, it's got to be out there. Like, Rare can't hit anymore. Well, so. It was a disappointment. It's not a worse game. It's a disappointing game.
Yeah.
See, that's my concern though with Rare and Microsoft buying up all these studios is, are they going to end up like Rare?
Well, the talent left Rare long before Microsoft bought them, right? I mean, Viva Pinata was what Microsoft bought them for, but if you look at who was still in the studios between who was there for Perfect Dark and who was there for Viva Pinata, it's like a list of who isn't who, basically.
Yeah, but that's weird. Viva Pinata was very good, so
but it was who knows how far along it was, but I mean, it's one of those things where like I can't say that what Microsoft didn't kill Rare. That's kind of like what a lot of the narrative is around a lot of studios making crappy games. Oh, Activision killed Blizzard, Microsoft killed Rare, EA killed Westwood. I mean, a lot of those studios for various reasons were on the decline.
You think a big company buys that studio more for its IP than its talent.
Exactly. At that point, you're buying the IP. You're buying Command and Conquer. You're not buying the team who's making it because half the team's already gone. So, my second biggest disappointment, I think maybe people argue with me here, I don't know, was Monster Hunter World. I let my friend talk me into this one with promise of me and him going on epic monster hunts together through these exciting worlds, and oh my god, this game is fucking boring. I mean, I don't.
It's an acquired taste. I like it, but yeah, it's definitely not for everyone.
I lost track of like the fifth monster that we had to hunt. It was like in the second area. It's almost impossible just to play with your friends. You have to go through many menus just to literally find your friend, and then by the time you're able. It was awful. Like we kept like joining the same session, but we couldn't see each other, and it was a nightmare.
So like it's got really shitty netcode.
Really awful.
No, it's not about netcode. It's about like interface. You don't really know even how to do it exactly. It's
okay. That's even worse.
Like you have to launch the games from this board, this like job board, right?
Yeah.
But like then it said like you have to go through all like I don't even know. I'm not even lying. There's probably 7 menus after you choose.
Also the best part is you can't play. You can't play a story mission in multiplayer unless it's your second time through that mission.
Right.
How
so like
weird is
about that too, where like if you're in a party together, you have to start the quest, like break up the party so everybody can see the story and then rejoin the party together.
Yes. And it's got all this weird shit with flares and stuff, right? Like I'm supposed to launch these flares so my friends can join me. But my friend are like, they see the flare like 20 minutes after I've launched it. So like, what am I supposed to do? Fire the flare and then literally sit there for 20 minutes until my friends can join my game in progress?
It's super messed up. They like really dropped the ball there.
And so this game is infatuated with you hitting the buttholes of animals. Like this is Monster Hunter anger at buttholes.
Anus edition.
Somebody really hates butts in Japan when they made this game.
So it's basically like Concho, the video game.
I have to defend it a little bit here. That first couple of monsters, you usually attack them from behind.
No, you don't attack them from behind. You spend 30 minutes, left clicking on their butt until their tail chops off or whatever. But
that's
it gets more. In my defense, you can't blame me for not giving this game
left clicking on butts sounds like a completely different kind of game.
No, but it definitely gets more complicated, complex, more complex later on and interesting. But the first, it's very methodical, slow game, and the first couple of hours will bore you to no end if you're not into that. Definitely.
Well, here's another part of that though, is they throw some really fucking cool looking monsters in those areas that you can't hit and one shot you, right? So it's like. Kind of talk about like what that feels like as a new player. You're seeing all this cool shit, but you can't go fight it. You know what I mean?
You have to go back to it later.
Yeah, you spend your time running from it, and it's like cool. Maybe in 20 levels I'll come back and kill that T-Rex. But me playing enough games knows in 20 levels I'll probably be onto some fire spitting dragon. I'm not gonna care about that T-Rex.
No. You go back to this T-Rex in the first level and you kill it.
Oh. Finally.
It's a lot of backtracking also. Yeah, I know Monster Hunter.
It's a very JRPG thing.
Yeah.
Like there's this level 87 monster just going around trashing shit.
But this is like the starting zone.
I'm going to avoid that until later.
Yeah, that's what they do. They put really lethal monsters in the starting zone so that you can feel like a big bad boss later on coming in and killing it.
But here's the other part of the multiplayer nature of it though, right? Is like I would get people join my games in progress, and all they do is run around in circles and pick plants. Like there's no reason, there's no incentive for them to join my game and do what I was doing in a weird way, right? Like, you can join anybody's game, do whatever the fuck you want. It's not like in Destiny, right? When you join a strike, that's all you can do. You can't, get into the strike and decide, well, you know what, you guys have fun with that. I'm gonna go over here and pick plants.
Yeah, it's a big instance world. It's you can kind
of Destiny really needs a plant.
But so like this game, you would get people who are like, "Hey man, what's up? I saw you were on this quest. I've got to go mine 50 ore, and I saw you were on this one, and I'm over leveled, and I just need to knock it out. So I'm just going to join here and pick ore for you." Cool, man. And he's doing that while I'm trying to do the mission, and like meanwhile the game scales up difficulty.
That your friend said that?
No, not my friend, just some random guy.
Jesus, thank God.
So me and my friend are wailing away. just ripping this guy's butthole.
Yep.
We get it
as you
like
do.
we should be doing. That's what the whole point of the game is. And then a third guy joins, like, oh, hey guys, you're working on this quest. I'm gonna go over here and mine in this little loop because this stuff respawns. Like, what is it? Like every 2 or 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you straight up. Like the best thing you can do with this game is like gather like 5 people or 4 people that are way into like very slow, deliberate, like killing big monsters deliberately and slowly, and then tracking it, and like it's very. It's not for everyone.
And what I've told people about it is like people have like what a disappointment. I bought it to play with a friend. Like I said, it's like even people who are like kind of like you, like who are diehard fans, are like, yeah, it's very much an acquired taste. But like,
and imagine this game, but even more cryptic and insane, and you have like the whole franchise up to this point. This is the beginner friendly version of this game. It's insane what they are doing.
When I saw...
Doesn't this one also give you a cat companion?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Polycos. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And
so that's the good part.
Online,
that's what I'm there for.
Literally everything I'm reading about this game is like, I can't believe they dumbed this down for casuals. I'm like, are you fucking kidding?
Yeah, it was way more insane, and it's still inscrutable in so many ways, and it was even worse in the past. So
even when you go back to like the crafting, right? So this game's heart and soul is kind of crafting, right? You kill the monster, get the bones and stuff. You go to town, and it's like, okay, well, why would I want to craft the feathery dragon set instead of the bug beast set?
Because some of the monsters are less. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, but no.
You know what? You don't have to explain the mechanics We're not going to get it today.
The game doesn't do it. The game doesn't explain.
No, the game doesn't do it at all. You have to go down into like layers and layers of menus, and then sometimes you have to have the set completely crafted before you even find out what it does.
Oh yeah.
So you're like grinding for a set.
A lot of trial and error.
Yeah, and I get to the end of it, and it's like, oh, this set helps you kill the raptors, and I'm like, well, I've already killed the raptors.
I already killed the raptors like 18 levels ago.
The good part. Oh yeah, definitely. Now, 2 things to say. One thing is that the good part is that you can disassemble any set, and you get every material back. Every piece of thing that you put into this set, you get back. That's good. The second part is that you really have to mine a certain type of animal, like really kill like hundreds of them to get a really good set for killing that type of animal.
Yes.
So it's like insane in that way. But imagine that people are playing thousands and thousands of hours of this game. Yeah. So it's.
Oh, I get it.
As I said, yeah.
Yeah. If you play one of like 3 video games a year, and this is one of those 3. Then
hardcore fans are going to play this for years, I can tell you.
I heard it was too casual. They might be moving on to.
I'm way too fucking casual for this shit.
Yeah.
So what's your biggest disappointment?
Fallout. I don't expect any argument there, but man,
Fallout 76.
Yeah, Fallout 76. I was hyped for it. I was idiot. I canceled my pre-order. I hope there are people out there having fun with it, and I hope it turns into a good game. Seriously, like I'm not just saying that to like be a nice guy. Like I hope that somewhere down the line, but like what was promised and what was delivered, more than just the bag. I mean, but man, that game just missed on so many basics. And I hear a lot of people talk about the engine, and I mean, like I know people smarter than me have really gone in and explained it's not the engine that's the problem. It's what you're asking the engine to do. Like games run on hilariously old engines all the time. It's more about this game. It's a very well-suited engine for being what Fallout usually is and what Skyrim usually is. But if you're asking the engine to do all this crazy multiplayer shit that it was never designed for, you're basically setting it up for failure, So like I'm not one of these people who are like, I'm not buying the new Skyrim if it uses the old, or not Skyrim, but whatever Elder Scrolls 6, yeah, whatever that turns out to be. I'm not gonna be one of the people like, I'm not buying it if it's not a new engine. I get that engines change rarely if you've got a good one,
I mean, they keep updating the base code.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. I think they have. You know more about software than me, but like there's forks of like engines, right? So like yes, it might be this.
Oh, I don't know shit about software. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, you can fork an engine so that, yes, it's technically the same engine, but look at all the different stuff we built into it that it can now handle that the earlier version couldn't. So I'm not as upset as people. I'm not demanding a new engine or anything like that. I'm fine with it, but I think they need to show, like, there's problems with the creation engine that have existed forever that they've never bothered to fix. And it all came out in Fallout 76 to be like game-ending bugs, right? Yeah. And like before, and it's been a common thing, everybody said this before, you could rely on the modding community to fix it. Now you can't. This is all you guys. And it's going to be interesting to see how much of a shit Bethesda gives about fixing this game versus, yeah, forget about this. Here comes the real new Fallout, right?
Oh no, so, they don't. They give zero shit.
That's what
this
I
was
think.
A money grab.
Yeah, that's honestly what I think. I think this was like an experiment that people paid for, which is really crazy to do to your fans.
It seems like something that another company would just do in house. Like, oh, let's just try this shit, and then it didn't work. Never mind.
But then
they were just like,
So, like you pay. The question I have with Fallout 76 is they had Elder Scrolls Online. They should have had at least some experience with this, even if Elder Scrolls Online isn't exactly, a bestseller.
Well, I mean, people like Elder Scrolls Online.
Elder Scrolls Online, though, is ZeniMax, not Bethesda. That's one thing.
I thought ZeniMax helped with Fallout 76.
Kind of. No, but not like development. They're more of like the production side of things. So I don't know exactly who does Elder Scrolls, but you can tell that game's its own. It feels nothing like an Elder Scrolls game, past the stories and NPCs and stuff. But I think Bethesda's thing is, instead of like they went with this advertising blitz, right? Started hiring all these streamers to go play the game. I mean, I'm not going to speak for her, but I don't know if Admirax would be playing on her stream, unless somebody was paying her to play that game. But I feel like that's where a lot of their money went, is in the advertising. And it feels like you're trying to trick people at that point when you're advertising a game that's this fundamentally shitty. Like, I don't know another way to put it. Like, I would rather this game be like just quietly shoved out the door than to have this full-blown ad blitz, all these people talking it up, and then seeing what came out just feels awful,
Harsh.
Yeah.
True.
It's true. I mean, it's like if you went to go like buy a new Honda Civic, and your family's always bought Honda Civics, and you like Honda Civics, and you can't wait for the new Honda Civic, and they start talking about this Honda Civic, and it's this greatest Honda Civic we've ever had. There's so much good stuff about it. We can't even tell you about it all. And then you go to buy it and you're like, oh, wait a minute, this thing sucks. Like, I would have rather just bought it and found out it sucks than be lied to the whole way down the line. You know what I mean?
This is getting really real for me because I bought a Honda Civic recently. And, my parents also own a Honda Civic, but it's an older model. And I bought a newer model, and it doesn't handle as well as the older model. So, and the visibility is a lot worse.
So you basically understand.
How did they fuck this up?
So you understand Kappa's pain.
I fucking nailed it with that analogy, buddy.
Like, the 2015 Honda Civic is the Fallout 76 of Honda Civics.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, you've liked every other one up until this one, and it's like, not only did I not like this one, but you prepared me to be blown away by it, and I'm pissed, And I think that's where a lot of the anger about the shit like the bags comes from, is more like it's just another, check mark in the pile of shit that you knew going into it. And again, it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. It's like you're angering your fan base, the people who buy it year in out, people who mod it for you and fix it and do all this other stuff. It's... man, I don't know. Fallout 76 hurt, guys.
Goodwill is a finite resource. Yeah. And I think companies are discovering that, there's a trade-off. You can alienate your fans, but potentially get this bigger audience who will just pay out money for garbage. Well, and you have to determine which you're going to go for.
In a way, like I was talking to my wife about like development studios and stuff, right? And like how you can learn to like what studios make. And to her, it was like a foreign concept because she's coming out from movie studios, right? And she's like, I have no fucking clue, past like Marvel, or whatever else. Like, I don't know what studios make most movies. They don't have a style that I'm used to, and they don't have a track record that I really care about. Like a lot of people who, like the general public, I don't think cares about studios the way we talk about them, So when you start...
Yeah, I mean, they might care about franchises, but they might not even know that, say, Fallout and Skyrim come from the same studio.
When it comes to movies, people care about directors the way we care about studios, because,
sure.
like...
but at some point, like, so look at like an M. Night Shyamalan or something, like somebody who's burned through that goodwill, you know, and has to kind of like, he sneaks movies out under his name now, you know?
Yeah.
And I think
he's kind of turned it around his past couple of releases, though, apparently.
But I mean, to the broader point, though, is like, you know, it was a joke 5-6 years ago. Oh, another one of these. I wonder what the twist is going to be. Like, I think that studios can burn through their goodwill and almost become like the people who know about it are the people who are not going to buy it because of that studio. You know, and that can be a really dangerous road.
We've seen it happen to BioWare in recent years.
It can be a really dangerous road to go down as a studio, to blow off your fans and just hope that other people don't catch on, because, you know, word of mouth goes a lot further than it ever has. So I'd be really curious to see when,
especially on the age of social media.
Yeah. So anyway, Fallout 76, fuck it, I'll get it eventually. But
yeah, I have no desire to. I mean, I'm not a huge Fallout fan. I like New Vegas well enough, but like anytime I see this sort of move to this persistent, always online environment, I just feel like, fuck it, I don't want to deal with other people, man.
You know what's so weird about it too is people were so worried about the PvP aspect of it, and that's like the biggest joke in the game. Is like you basically can't PvP. Like, it's almost impossible, you know, to like kill
like,
someone
why
in the
even
game.
make a fucking multiplayer game?
Exactly. You know, or why put PvP in it? Why not just make it co-op? And then you don't have to. You can streamline a lot of the shit that you had to put in there, because you don't have to worry about players shooting each other. And then literally all you're doing is doing a drop-in, drop-out co-op Fallout. I think you guys could handle that one a little bit better, you know. But
I'd be down for that.
Like, hey,
I'd love to wander the wasteland with a buddy.
yeah, hey man,
instead of
come jump in and help me with these death claws for a couple hours. Cool. That makes a lot more sense than doing this persistent world shit.
And then you kind of like have to like take your swords and like attack this death claw's butthole for like a couple of hours. It's very grueling work.
I think you guys don't understand how much attacking of behind you do in this game. I want you to experience it so you can figure it out exactly what
it's a fair bit. It's a fair bit. I agree. It's a fair bit. You have to collect all those tails. It's no joke. Even later in the game, you still attack a fair amount of buttholes.
All right, Merve, I guess it's your turn. Those are my three.
Oh, I have to name what I disliked. So I'm going to name one disappointment and one of the worst games I've ever played. So they're both indie games, and I always feel bad being harsh on indie games because, you know, they're often labors of love. But a bad game is a bad game, and I'm also not one to mince words. So let me start with a disappointment. It's this point-and-click kind of narrative adventure called A Case of Distrust. And I was drawn to it because it has this really amazing, gorgeous, kind of old-timey art style. It's very stark, does everything in silhouette.
Yeah. As soon as the pictures came up, I was like, yeah, this is a Merve game.
I'm like, this looks amazing. I'm down for this. And then I got to the actual gameplay, and it was very bare bones, very hidden object-y. I'm not a huge fan of hidden object games. And the story was just not good. In that it kind of... Like, let me put it this way. It seems like it's going to try to make a point about gender, like what it means to be a female detective in, I guess, the 1920s, wherever this game is taking place. And then never really makes good on that, and then kind of just uses that almost as window dressing, and then tells this other story about betrayal, and it never really makes those two ideas meet. And it just feels like they're throwing in, like, I hate to say this, it feels like they're throwing in progressivism for flavor.
I've seen that a couple of times now, and I think you're right. I don't know how else to describe. Like, I really want to be like careful about, like, it's hard to talk about this and not sound like you're like anti-SJW or whatever. You know what I mean? But it also shouldn't be window dressing. It should have something fundamentally to say about the game, right? Like, or what you're seeing.
Yeah, it feels like they don't really engage with it, and I'd love to see a story that really engaged with the idea of being a female detective in the 1920s and having to deal with gendered assumptions and all that. And it's such a half measure. It feels like they put it in because
I mean,
they
it
kind of
doesn't,
wanted
it
to.
doesn't always have to be like the centerpiece of the story, right? It's good.
It doesn't. You're absolutely right. It just feels like they don't fully engage.
Yeah, I
with the
guess my
idea.
thing is, if you're going to put it in or do it, then deal with it. You know what I mean? Don't just have it be something that's there. I guess.
Like basically, she reflects on it in 2 or 3 scenes, and then it never really plays a role beyond that. And I feel that's why I feel really kind of disappointed with how that whole thing was handled. Also, the story beyond that is just not very good.
Yeah.
So
Let me
that-
ask you
that
this,
kind
because
of-
I think we're kind of like on opposite ends, right? Like I mostly play major releases and stuff, but it's because I kind of burned out on indie games around, let's just say like the Braid era, right?
Wow, that's early.
I mean, that was the start of the indie
Yeah.
game
Yeah,
era.
yeah, but like
seems like you never really gave it a
but
chance.
it felt like every indie game was like a must play around that time. Do you know what I mean? And like I think for me it started to feel like, okay, well, you know, you're doing this, you're trying to get this one aspect of gameplay or story or something, but you're not building enough of an interesting game around it for me to stay interested in a way. So do you do you think that big indie releases are kind of like naturally disposed or like predisposed to disappoint you? That's what I feel like.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think a lot of indie games are made without an understanding of what appeals to people in a game. So, like, and I'm going to get into this more with but sorry, I'm not going to mention what it is yet. With the next game I talk about, I don't think A Case of Distrust was made with an understanding of what people like about these independent narrative adventures. It's not just an aesthetic. It's not just... You can't just bolt gameplay on haphazardly or throw in really unengaging gameplay if you've got a cool aesthetic and cool window dressing. People really get invested in story and characters. And the characters in A Case of Distrust are actually pretty good. But if you don't have an interesting plot for people to latch themselves onto, if the mystery solving isn't meaty and substantial, people aren't going to really buy into it. And that was the problem I had with A Case of Distrust, is that it didn't seem to be made with the understanding that gameplay and the mystery solving aspect of this game were what really mattered. And yeah, the aesthetic is wonderful. It's beautiful. And the window dressing, the setting, they have interesting characters. Like, all that is there, but there was no investment in making a really nice story. Also, sometimes like the gameplay would be really obtuse, and you have to give like a really specific answer, and you'd wonder why. It's like it had the LA Noire problem of like, oh, why did doubt work here but truth not? You know, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So it had that very similar problem, where sometimes something that should logically work doesn't work, and it just gets super frustrating. So that was kind of the problem I had with it. Otherwise, you know, if you like the aesthetic, it'll get you pretty far. So I wouldn't say don't go out and play it. It was just a disappointment to me.
Right.
No, my biggest disappointment of the year, and one of the worst games I've ever played, was a game called Inner Space.
Haven't heard of it.
And yeah, I don't know how to describe this. Let me just say this. It's a game where you have to imagine a game where there's no sense of up or down, but you can't pilot your character like a helicopter. You have to pilot them like a plane. Yeah, it doesn't work.
You mean
That
like
doesn't. All right.
inverted flight controls, or
Yeah, it's flight controls.
Huh. Why?
What?
Such garbage. And on top of that, imagine that they layered a completely unnecessary narrative on top of all of this.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. So, A, this game controls like shit.
Great.
B, it's extremely obtuse, so you never know what you're supposed to be doing very well. So there's like this puzzle solving element, but it's just hot garbage. And there's this really irritating story layered on top of it.
Great. Sounds like a banger.
Yeah. So it's a garbage fire.
Nice.
Okay, so that was our disappointments.
I have
you
one.
have one?
I have one.
Uh-oh.
Okay, make it quick.
Okay. the hush hush boy, the quiet man, the not so loud lad.
Oh yeah, that game.
That fucking racist pile of garbage.
Oh man,
It's racist
It is
too.
racist.
Oh,
It is extremely racist, and it's like very just badly written and badly played. And to hear the game, you have to play through once through, and it doesn't make any goddamn sense, even if it has sound in it. It's garbage fire. It controls like garbage. The whole story is horrible.
did you hear when I talked about it at PAX?
I
When I played
laughed
it back?
at. I don't know. I laughed at it as soon as I saw it on the E3 announcements.
So at PAX they had it set up and literally no one was playing it, and
Yeah.
someone went over, like some journalist went over to play it to like write about it, and he realized it was the entire game. Like it wasn't like it wasn't like a demo. It's just like they just put the full game in a PlayStation. They were like, here, go fucking play.
Oh, so bad. The game is so bad. But that's
is it like a brawler? What kind of? What's the gameplay like?
Yeah, it's a brawler. It's a FMV brawler. It's like a FMV game, but then it's a brawler for a while, and then it's an FMV game where you basically it's FMV, and it's like it's just so bad. It's played with so. Oh my god! And the first time you're playing it through, it's like no sound at all, and it's so boring. Like they tried to make like an experiment game, but it's just so bad. I can't even express how bad it is and how much of a like it had an E3
Yeah.
thing. Like I can't believe it. This horrible game.
So they're like invested.
Yeah,
in it, but
well, that's
they
it.
didn't manage
That's
to
all
pull
I
it off.
wanted to say about it. It's just like horrible piece of garbage, and oh my god.
also racist. Wait, why is it racist?
Oh yeah, it's just about like these Puerto Ricans that are in a gang, and they're very badly stereotypically presented in like a horrible way, and like they have these thick accents, and like they're all gang members, and you kind of like kill them all as a white dude.
Okay.
I just kind of like, yeah, it's just so bad. It's so bad.
Oh, so it's like whatchamacallit, Watch Dogs, where you're Aiden killing just poor black people.
Yes, it's so
Okay,
bad.
yeah.
It's so bad.
Oh, okay, not good.
No, it's not.
All right, so to kind of close this out now, let's talk about our biggest surprises of the year. Mike, you had a surprise you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I mean, it's Yoku's Island Express. It's what we already covered over. So my whole surprise is that you took a pinball Metrovania game and actually made it a game worth playing. Because the only thing in that genre I could possibly think of that existed before was Sonic Spinball, which, let's be honest, Sonic Spinball is not a good game.
I mean, are there any good Sonic games?
Yeah,
Oh, no.
I'm with Merve. I'm with Merve. Thank you for saying it. You
I
brave
haven't
man.
played enough.
All right, we're gonna get so much shit
You
for
brave
this.
boy. I believe in what you said.
I was the original Sonic hater, just for the record. I think it's spreading.
I've
heard Sonic
remember
Mania
liking
is
1 and 2 when I was a kid, but I remember playing Sonic Spinball in the 90s and thinking, wow, this is a boring game.
I liked
So-
Twinkies when I was a kid. You had one post 20, you kind of realize real quick, you know.
Oh God, we're going to get hate mail.
Anyway,
That's my only surprise for the year.
Yeah. Science, what was your surprise?
My surprise is that they showed the Quiet Man during an E3 conference. What the fuck? And except for that,
Somebody believed in that game.
Yes,
Somebody.
said we gotta show it. We gotta show it. Like, there's no way we ain't showing this game. Have you played it? Have you played 2 minutes of this game, dude? Oh my god! And the title, The Quiet Man, it's so bad. The whole thing is horrible. That's it. That's my surprise of 2018. No, really though, my biggest surprise would be, I think, Mutant Year Zero. I think that game. The name of the game is Mutant Year Zero.
yeah.
It's really surprisingly like. I haven't played it, but it looks fantastic. It has very good reviews, and it's like I haven't expected it to be like an XCOM kind of like game.
Yeah, it's like an XCOM mixed with Good and Evil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It
Kind
looks
of like that.
very fucking cool. I haven't played it yet. I think it's free for Xbox Game Pass, so I have it. I just haven't messed with it yet.
I'll buy it sooner or later. It looks very cool. Yeah. So that's
I
basically...
need to check it out. It looks very cool.
Yeah, so that sounds like a pleasant surprise.
Definitely.
Kappa, did you have any surprises you wanted to mention?
I got some. Get ready. Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm bracing myself.
I did 3 for everything, so I'm going to stick with my theme. All right, number 1. I thought this was going to be a shitty cash grab, and I was ready to tell my kid no, I was not going to buy it, and then I played it, and that is Starlink, whatever it's called, Beyond Alice. Oh, my God. It's fucking Star Fox. It's so good. It's like the Star Fox I've always wanted to play. You don't have to do the little buy ships and change them out thing, first of all. That was kind of confusing, I think, for a lot of people.
Oh, it's that game where you buy the little models.
It's that game that literally has Star Fox in it.
You
if
buy
you
Star
buy
Fox
it for Nintendo Switch.
Yes, and I bought it for Switch.
Yeah.
And I was watching my kid play it. I was addicted to watching him play it. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to play this. And I don't know where that whole day went, but I had to like cut myself off because I was like unlocking stuff for him. I'm like, I got to stop. But there's individual pilots, there's individual ships, there's individual weapons, there's worlds to explore. You get points for scanning dinosaurs and trees, and you've traveled the galaxy fighting things, and you know which weapons work best against which other enemies. It is so cool, guys. I mean, if you've been fiending for like a Star Fox experience, the best thing I can tell you is this is exactly that. This is that Star Fox that you've probably been waiting for.
I'm super satisfied with the excellent Star Fox.
No.
I don't know about you guys.
The Toy to Life thing is so my kid has previously been into Lego Dimensions. The Toy to thing is a lot better done in this game. You can change stuff off on the fly. You don't have to like do the thing in Lego Dimensions where every time you register a new ship you have to go, or a new character, you have to go in, drop it off, rescan the little code or whatever. In this game it's just on the fly. You pop it out, you pop it in, boom, you got the new weapon in game or the new pilot or whatever. Interesting enough missions, very kid friendly. Obviously you're not doing fate of the world type stuff, but very, very fun to play. It controls like a dream. It does a lot of cool stuff with the Switch as well. The controllers accept the ships and they pop in and pop out really easy. There's not a lot to deal with it from like a parent perspective of having to deal with finagling it all. The worst part is my kid losing individual weapons, like, oh my god, I need the flamethrower, where is it? And us trying to figure it out. But it's Star Fox, don't let me get you wrong. Very, very, very fun game to play. So that was a surprise because I thought I was ready to tell him no, he's not going to get it. But no, it's super fun. The second surprise is a game called Ancestors Legacy. We were talking a little bit earlier when Mike was talking about Thrones of Britannia. This is a top-down real-time strategy game that borrows heavily from Company of Heroes. I don't know if you guys have played Company of Heroes or know that style of RTS.
No, sorry.
I know that style. Yeah,
it's a little bit less base management and resource management, and more like managing your units and like knowing when to like back away from a fight rather than just slugging it out and taking the losses like like say StarCraft would, where if you have a good enough economy you can recover. It's small units, manage them well, get them veteran status, upgrade them, let them go do all the work for you. This game is a Viking, Slavic, and I want to say like Holy Roman Empire, Teutonic type era real-time strategy game, which I've never really played, I don't think, before. I can't think of many like straight up RTSs, not like tactical strategic games like Total War games where you play, you build a building and it makes Huskarls or whatever. Can't think of many games like that. And it really pays attention to the counters. So cavalry is countered by spearmen, countered by swordsmen, countered by archers and stuff like that. It's a
Yeah. As far as the setting goes, like usually medieval Europe games, you think of France and England.
Right.
Not elsewhere in the continent.
So this was a really fun experience just to get into, first of all, and it plays really well. It's got a lot going for it. It's a budget title. Don't expect big RTS genre defining things going on, but it handles the buildings really smartly. All the units kind of are similar across faction too, so depending on what you like, a lot of them are just renamed. There's some bugginess. Archers shoot way too far for my taste, and artillery tends to kill your units more than the enemy. But I mean, a lot of that can be managed by some smart gameplay, or positioning things correctly and stuff like that. But that one kind of came out of nowhere, and RTSs are few and far between. And
I know you're a big RTS fan,
yeah.
right?
Okay, last surprise. Get ready, buckle in.
Yep.
Okay.
Fortnite.
I'm strapped in.
Fortnite Save the World. I love Fortnite Save the World. It's not the Battle Royale. I always have to preface this with I'm not talking about the Battle Royale. Save the World is the actual mode that Fortnite was supposed to be.
Yeah, that's the paid for part of
you
Fortnite.
pay for this part, not the ultra popular free part. If you like just in general like building games or like creative games like Minecraft, I guess, combine that with a shooter, and that's really what Fortnite Save the World is. Lots of complex trees and stuff, and it's got a lot of the same Fortnite love. I haven't kept up with it in the last 3 or 4 months, but it is a year-end review. But I really encourage it if you're just interested to see what Fortnite was. Check it out. I think it's like $20 or so. So we're not talking, super expensive to check it out, but it's a really addictive gameplay loop of different mission types. You go into a mission, you spend the first couple of minutes gathering resources, finding treasure, doing mission stuff like that. Then you have to build your base up. So people contribute. Some people build traps. Some people build walls. Some people, go around and set up stuff so that the enemy will have to walk through these complex mazes, almost like a tower defense. And then the final mission starts, and it's you either running around killing stuff or running them through these mazes, or hoping that your defenses hold as they attack this castle you've built. And it's a really fun loop of gameplay that if you want to stick a couple hours into it, you might find your $20 worth of it. So yeah, I really liked Fortnite Save the World far more than I thought, and it was kind of my surprise game of the year because a lot of people don't even know that mode exists. Weirdly, it's hard to call the biggest game of the year a surprise, I would guess. But I hear so.
What's interesting to me is that Fortnite was originally intended as like an Unreal Engine 4 showcase. Yeah. That was basically why it was built, and now it's become this phenomenon. Even though it was more it was almost like a proof of concept kind of thing.
It was also like I've heard the word Fortnite for a decade before it came out. It was like the longest in. I thought it would never come out, so it's extra surprising that it's such a big hit.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Save the World mode, like explicitly though, that I would encourage that what the game does is really cool, like from a technology standpoint. I guess, like from the perspective of I can build stuff in the world and I can come back a bunch of days later, my little castle is still there in my base, that I built up to defend against, infinite waves of enemies. So some of that stuff is really neat that the game can handle that, because most games don't do that, and you see that slowly working into Fortnite, the Battle Royale, with the creative modes and stuff like that. And I know most people only play Save the World mode to get good at building for the Battle Royale mode, but I really would tell people, I mean, if you're just looking for a weird experience, you can do a lot worse than Fortnite for $20.
All right. Yeah. That seems like something that I should try out at some point. Even just like the Battle Royale mode's free. It's not much of an investment for me to jump in. So I should definitely try Fortnite just because I keep hearing
let that rage out.
Yeah. People really rage on Fortnite. It seems so joyful and colorful. I can't imagine raging over Fortnite.
The people who rage are usually people who got money involved, right? They're streamers or they're playing in a tournament or stuff. My kid can play Fortnite for hours. I bet he's never finished top 10 ever. But him getting a kill is like he runs downstairs to tell me, So there's people having a great time with it, but the vast majority of people playing it on stream are who's gonna,
I feel like streamers is such a small proportion of the player base, though, that like if you don't have any money on the line, it's just like some goofy thing you're playing to pass the time. I don't know. I'm not the kind of person who's going to rage over.
Well, and what Fortnite does well is it's like a match ends and then 10 minutes later, or not even 10, like, you know, a minute later, you're into the next one. It's not like PUBG where there's like god awful loading screens for 20 minutes to get you into the next game, or a lot of other battle royale games that are just really slow for some reason. Fortnite's like, oh, died, here you go, next game. I think that's a really smart way to manage those types of games.
I mean, are there other popular battle royale games? I know that
PUBG.
I guess Battlefield 5 or Call of Duty Black Ops, one of those has a popular battle royale mode.
I mean, I would say PUBG is definitely up there. I mean, it's very still.
I mean, obviously PUBG, but like beyond PUBG and Fortnite.
Call of Duty is Battlefield 5 is eventually going to have one, but I would also say there's also one that is by the guys who made. Holy crap! I can't remember the name of it.
Is it Realm Royale?
Realm Royale,
that's
one? It. Yeah. Realm Royale has up and downs. The thing about battle royale games, right, is you've got these streamers who are stuck in purgatory on Twitch with 20 viewers, right? So there's people always hunting for the next battle royale game. For a while, it was Ring of Elysium. Then it was Darwin Project. And there's a lot of these like flash in the pan.
Ring of Elysium? I haven't even fucking heard of that game.
So there's a lot.
I've heard of the Darwin Project.
There's a lot of these flash in the pan type battle royales where what they're really trying to do is to get these people with 20 audiences, but so many of them that they want to get into it and get good at it so they can differentiate themselves from Ninja, who owns Twitch basically, so you got a lot of these people chasing that next game, and they're driving these audiences in these kind of weird circles. It reminds me a lot of, I don't know how much MMOs you guys are into, but right around the time that WoW kind of started to be the juggernaut it was, there was a million WoW killers. It was nothing but WoW killers were coming out. Well, this game's going to be the death of WoW. So you had this like group of people who were kind of like diaspora. That sounds bad to say. I don't know if I should say that. But, basically like they're hopping from MMO to MMO, trying to feed that first, feeling of WoW. And I feel like you're seeing that now with the battle royale genre. The people who are good at Fortnite but not good enough to get noticed, who are now just bouncing from battle royale to battle royale, trying to be the new ninja, right? You're not going to be the ninja of Fortnite. That ship sailed, buddy. So, but maybe you can be the ninja of Realm Royale. And that's why you're getting all these damn battle royales that,
I'm never going to be into this. So it just seems like it's just a trend that's kept repeating itself. Like we saw a hero shooter trend. We saw a MOBA trend not that long ago. And like these Me Too games, Me Too's not the right word to use anymore.
We're just pissing people off left and right.
These copycat games don't like, they almost never catch on.
Well, here's the thing about battle royale games, though. They don't have to catch on in America because a lot like what's going on in movies right now, they are huge in China. There's literally a genre of game. I think they call it like the game of eating chicken or something like that. Because in PUBG, it was when you win, it says winner, winner, chicken dinner. I think the actual like somebody told me this, and it's like basically like game of eating chickens is what it's called in China. And so battle royales there are huge because the culture there in a lot of Asian countries is you play this game in a PC bong or a cafe, an internet cafe. You got all your friends there who are watching you in the top 10 and doing all this stuff. So it's on fire there. So of course, like everybody else, if you can court the Chinese market, you're going to. And battle royales are what's hot right there. So I don't think these are going anywhere.
It's so strange that things end up with this differing level of popularity kind of elsewhere in the world. But we think we're so America centric when you think about the game industry that we don't even stop to realize that there's this gigantic PC market in Asia and Europe that
and it's just different enough, like the culture and the way they play and everything, that like it drives genres in totally different directions, which is a good thing, right? Because I mean, otherwise we'd just be on Call of Duty. Well, we still are, you know what I mean? But like there wouldn't be anything else, anybody trying to do anything new out there. So yeah, I'm interested to see where these battle royales go, because eventually they're going to get bored of them. They're by their nature, they're like there's not a system of a persistence, right? So eventually you're gonna be like, okay, cool, I've won enough,
I feel like Europe has single-handedly kept Counter-Strike alive for all these years.
That's Russia
I
right there,
definitely.
man. That's their game.
You hear a lot of accents if you log into
Most of Europe is like way into Counter-Strike still. Like we never played Call of Duty really. Like very little Call of
It's all
Duty.
CS:GO.
Yeah, mostly CS. Mostly CS people play. And Quakes and all of that, but that's back in the day. But up till this day, CS, Counter-Strike, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's like you're talking about. There's genres way outside of what we do and what we're into that we don't see. And I mean, it's the first time I think you've kind of got China being a big player in a genre that's pushing forward at the same time it's popular in the U.S.
Yeah, you don't typically see that overlap. Like, if you see overlap, you typically think about, like, say, the Korean and American markets sometimes overlap on strategy games, or on certain kinds of RPGs. The Japanese and American markets will overlap, but it's the first time I've really seen this, like, the Chinese market really driving trends in America, which is interesting to me. So maybe this trend will continue. Maybe it'll end.
I mean, it's here for a while. There's too much money in it right now for it to go totally away. But yeah,
I can bet you by this time in 2020 we will not be talking about
all right
games.
Okay, we'll hold you to it, Merv.
All right, write it down in the podcast notes.
Yeah, Merv.
Put it in the GamesCast legend.
Battle Royale, Merv.
Parentheses. Merv eats his own hat. And
I mean, there's been Battle Royale style stuff, but it really feels like it's its own world right now. And I don't know where else shooters go besides Battle Royales because people seem to really be into that style.
I think it's another trend, just like MOBAs and hero shooters.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Eventually, they'll stop making them.
Yeah, but some trends like are more have more longevity than others.
Yeah, when the trend becomes a genre, I think is when you get that.
I mean, hero shooters are a genre, but when was the last time you heard anybody talk about playing Gigantic
or Overwatch?
I mean, Overwatch is still a thing, right? But that's persistent.
Yeah.
Like the best games in the genre stay. Yeah. Like, say people are still playing Dota 2 and League of Legends. There are all these other failed MOBAs that nobody plays anymore.
No, definitely. But yeah. I'm going to bet like Fortnite will be around in a year, or 2 years. But I don't think and PUBG maybe, but I don't think any other.
Like Radical Heights is dead. I'm just looking at Wikipedia right now.
Maybe like Battlefield will come out with its own like Battle Royale, and
the Battlefield is. I think what's going to happen is it's going to be less of its own genre in a couple of years, and it's going to be more of a game mode people expect.
Yeah,
right?
like deathmatch. Like people didn't have deathmatch before. Doom.
It'll just be folded into regular multiplayer.
Yeah, you release a Halo.
I'm actually looking at this right now. Gigantic servers shut down earlier this year.
Huh.
Yeah, it shut down July 31st.
Oh, and that reminds
me. So there you go. That's what's happening to hero shooters. If you're not Overwatch,
like Left 4 Dead created
like
the zombie multiplayer mode in some games, right? So that's kind of like similar, also.
Which game created zombies?
Left 4 Dead, like Left 4. Okay, yeah.
It created this like co-op 4-person mode.
Yep. Like Call of Duty had zombie modes.
Yeah. Does Call of Duty still do zombies?
I think so.
Yeah, it's literally all they do now. So there is no more single player in Call of Duty, at least as of the latest one. There's no more campaign. Yep. So you have a zombies campaign and then multiplayer, and that's it. So which is kind of surprising because I might be the one person in the world who actually liked Call of Duty's campaigns. It was very Michael Bay action movie, but they really knew how to do a cool set piece and like a memorable scene. And for all the no Russian shit, there was actually some really good storytelling in some of their games, and it made sense. I mean, there was probably 50 writers, lots of recognizable Hollywood ones too on all those Call of Duty games. So it's not like they were happening in a vacuum, but it's surprising to me that that's the mode that they cut out was the campaign and not zombies. Obviously not multiplayer, but then they threw in a battle royale on top of it.
See, the thing about the campaign is that it is actually a selling point for a lot of people. But the investment required to make the quality of campaigns that players expect is just astronomical.
Yeah.
So they're not getting that much return on it. Because also, it's not something that's very monetizable. So, like, it's something you buy once and then you can't put microtransactions into the campaign.
Yeah. You finish it and that's it.
Well, if you look at
Yeah.
Fortnite being like the most money-making game of the year by far, it's a free game. That's, you know what I mean? If you're a studio, that's making your head explode. You know what I mean? Like, so this game probably didn't cost a ton to make, to be honest with you, because Fortnite was not supposed to be Epic's tentpole. It was supposed to be Paladins, I want to think it was called.
Yeah, I think so. But it wasn't like
Let me
the
look that up.
like it was in the back burner for so long. Like it probably did waste a lot of money before it came out.
No, it's not Paladins. That was made by Hi-Rez.
No.
And developed by
I think
Mojo and published by
Fortnite
Hi-Rez.
just was named Fortnite. Like it was a code name for a long while, and they would just kept it. I think.
Oh, Paragon. I'm sorry. So
Paragon.
Oh
that's
yeah,
it.
yeah. You're right.
I
You're
can't
right.
even remember the name of it. So Paragon was supposed to be Epic's tentpole, right?
Yeah.
And Fortnite was this kind of kiddie building, versus zombies game that was being produced on the side. And then as let's check out this battle royale. We'll drop this mode in the game, and that's when it took off. But they actually stopped development on Paragon to move people over to Fortnite.
Yeah, it was an early access, and then
And they-
it shut down in April of this year.
Let's screw it.
Yeah, so I mean,
So that was supposed to be a MOBA?
More
No.
like an Overwatch thing.
Yep.
I think.
it's a hero.
It says, the Wikipedia says, the genre says MOBA, but it's
Yeah.
third person?
Nah,
It was more of a hero shooter.
Okay, so for like Battle
MMO online,
which is
type
combines
thing.
the
Yeah.
hero shooter and
yes,
MOBA genres.
yes, it's very Battleborn-ish. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, well I can see why they gave
Yep.
up on it then.
But it's so weird to me that this was their big game. If you look at all the E3 stuff back in the day and all the stuff that they were advertising, Paragon, they were going all out for it. And to see that lose out to a kiddie shooter, because of a mode, I mean, it's shocking when you think about Epic knows what they're doing. They're not, this isn't their first thing. They didn't just strike lightning in a bottle. They pushed Paragon out the door.
Well, yeah, this ain't their first rodeo.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So it's interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, it seems like sometimes video game publishers are good at kind of steering into the skid and figuring out trends. And other times I think they kind of miss the mark. It's really hard to know where trends are going to go a priori.
Yeah.
So-
And it'll be interesting to see if in the next couple of years people look to more of those Asian countries we were talking about to find out where the trends are going and seeing if they're tastemakers or if they're still kind of, into something that we were all into 5 or 6 years ago, which sometimes happens. Like we were talking about CSGO, or CSGO still has tons and tons and tons of people playing it and watching it online. It's
very much a European
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Catch up.
So, any other surprises you folks wanted to mention?
No.
You didn't have any surprises, Science?
Surprises. Nah, I did. I mentioned the Quiet Man being on the E3. That was a surprise.
Oh yeah, you already mentioned your
Yeah,
surprises.
yeah.
I'm so bad at remembering what happened. I do have a couple of surprises I want to mention. The first is Deltarune.
yeah.
I haven't finished playing through it yet. I was really not expecting Toby Fox to release more material so soon.
Yeah.
And I know this is it's a free demo, so it's not a full game. But I was basically not expecting to hear from Toby Fox until 2022. Also,
Man, I do love Undertale,
I don't know
but
if this is a negative or positive surprise. I was not expecting him to make a game with the same kind of gameplay as Undertale.
Yeah.
I think that's what I was, again, I was okay into Undertale. I wasn't super, super into it, but some of the reaction was kind of surprising. At first, I thought people were going to be really excited because it kind of came out of nowhere, but I've heard kind of it's been kind of I don't know. It feels like it's been kind of like a lukewarm reception, even from super fans. So I don't know if it's the game or if it's just not enough. Or if they're waiting cautiously.
People like it. It's just been the reception has been kind of muted because they don't know what to expect coming down the pipeline.
Okay.
Because it's going to be years before we get the rest of
But
it.
seriously, super fans for Undertale, Jesus Christ, that was. I'm a big fan of Undertale, but I completely, horribly don't like the whole Undertale fan community. It's there's a lot of insanely like entitled, possessive people that kind of went on off the deep end and were like very obnoxious in many ways. Like many fandoms, it has its.
It
rotten
definitely feels
apple.
like a fan base I wouldn't want to be like editing the Wikipedia pages.
Yeah,
for. You know what I mean?
Jesus. Yeah, definitely. But I do love Undertale, really. But I really liked it. It was my game of the year 2015, I think.
There you go.
I think it clocked in at number 10 for me the year it came out. But that year was a really good year for games.
Yeah.
This year was a little different. So if we can talk about sort of like a general surprise for a second. I mean, I didn't play a lot of big titles this year because I just didn't have the time. Sort of a negative surprise. I would say like most of the games I played this year that made my top 10 this year would not have made my top 10 last.
Yeah, and I think with me kind of being half in, half out on Red Dead Redemption 2, I'm kind of on the same boat, you know. So that's interesting.
I mean, I really loved.
I think Yoku's and Chucha would have made it, but beyond that, like I don't think any other game on my top 10.
I really loved my top 3, but I think they would definitely be higher up the list than any other year. Also,
yeah, when one of mine is a Destiny expansion, which I was bound to love anyway. Odyssey, which just basically takes the Origin and takes it further, and then Red Dead is just it's spotty. There's no like, you know, like sometimes like someone could be like, I just watched a great movie, but I don't know if it was a good movie. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel about Red Dead Redemption. Like I'm playing this masterpiece.
You know you're in the presence of greatness, but you don't know if you can appreciate it.
But I don't know if I would tell my friend to watch it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What I keep coming back to is last year, I ended up having to leave Persona 5 and Danganronpa V3 off my list.
Yeah, last year I was
which is ridiculous.
Yeah, last year I had like my... Okay, so yeah, also like you, top 10, I had to throw some games out, but like top 3, I had a really tough time like getting those 3 in order. Like, and the fourth game, I was also like, man, this really deserves to be in the top 3. I can't really decide. And this year was like, those 3 games, and that was
like, I think when I was watching the Game Awards and God of War 1, I don't think I was shocked. I was just like, I mean, I guess. You know
man,
what I mean? Like,
God of War, that would be my number 10 game of the year. I
think it would be on my list, but like I wouldn't. Like in previous years, I would go hard for like my game of the year, you know. But like if someone said, "Okay, Red Dead, that's ridiculous. It should be God of War," I'd probably like, "Okay." Yeah. All right. Sure.
Yeah. This year I went way into like more indie games because the big games really didn't make that much of an impact for me. I really liked Soul Calibur 6 also. I played it.
I would say the other problem is I was a lot busier this year, so I didn't play a lot of the big games. So I fully intended to play Valkyria Chronicles 4, Spider-Man. Like I bought Vampire, just never even fired it up. So there are all these games that I intended to play that I just didn't have the time for.
Man, I haven't played a second.
And I feel like my top 10 would look different.
I haven't played a second of Red Dead Redemption 2 since the last time we talked. Like, I also been super busy.
But you know what's weird is I don't think it was a bad year in gaming. Like, I enjoyed what I played.
Yeah.
There was very few games that I played. I was like, oh, this is a turd. I'm going to turn this off. Mostly it was just pretty good, you know? But like,
and then there was The Quiet Man.
Yeah. It was just like a lot of known quantity games being good to very good. A lot of games that kind of like had maybe a bad release still getting some work in, or like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to describe it. I wasn't disappointed with this year. I wouldn't call it a bad year at all. It just, I don't know. I played what I played and I enjoyed it, but I don't think anything stood out for me as being just insanely good or, you know, super like obviously a game of the year like a lot of other game years have seemed to have.
Yeah,
I think like I will say Yoku stands head and shoulders kind of above the rest just for being just how innovative it is. But like there's no other game I played this year I was just like, oh, this is a watershed moment for the media. Mm-hmm. It's not like I had like last year it's just like every game that was like, oh, this is big. This is a big deal. This proves something important. But like, Cube 2 being good doesn't really prove anything about first-person puzzlers. It just proves that you can continue making good first-person puzzlers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I think for me, Obra Dinn is really so innovative that I'm like, yeah, it didn't go to my number one, but as much as I think it innovates in so many ways that it's more innovative than most games I've played in the last couple of years. So there's definitely some bangers.
Yeah, and last year too, it felt like everything was like in a genre that was like currently like being reborn or feeling fresh or stuff like fucking Doki Doki Literature Club or Cuphead or you know what I mean, like all these like weird games that were like, wait a minute, I thought I was playing.
Oh, I fucking hate.
I know
Doki
you did.
Doki
Let's not
Club.
talk with Merve about Doki Doki.
We don't have to get into that.
I
though.
know, Merve, your problems with Doki Doki, and I concur with you definitely.
But what I'm saying is that was a visual novel, right? You know what I mean? But like, whoa,
it had interesting ideas.
So
Let's
that's what I'm trying to say. Like even in like known genres and stuff, I felt a lot of games were doing crazy new stuff, whereas I didn't feel like this year, and that's why a lot of my stuff like Odyssey and some of the other games, while they're very good, I don't want to put them out as being game of the year type games because they're kind of what they were.
Yeah,
what
last year was Nier Automata.
You know what game?
That was a crazy game.
That was a crazy ass fucking game. So you know what game did innovate this year and was a bit of surprise? This is my last surprise. It was a browser game made by Google of all companies. It's called Samantris. And the way it works is that what they did was they trained a machine learning algorithm on thousands upon thousands of conversations to create word associations. And you essentially try to solve word association puzzles either in kind of like a Tetris-like game or a timed chain game where a tower keeps getting bigger and you have to eliminate words through associations.
And then they take all your answers and give it to the Russians, or
I don't know. Like, I don't know what data they're going to give to the Russians if I think that I think glasses and lenses are linked words. I don't know how that helps them.
Yeah, it
subvert
like
democracy.
It seems like it's a game though that's designed to do something else, right? Like,
yeah.
That sounds really cool. I could see doing that for hours, honestly.
I was so addicted to it for a few weeks. I would just fire it up anytime.
Oh man, you know what game
on my lunch break?
I really wish I played was Tetris Effect.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh
yeah, I heard good things about that.
I played it at PAX, and it was awesome.
I just wish I had a PSVR just for this one game, but I am not going to buy a PSVR for this one game.
Yeah, what you need to do is make a friend who has a PSVR.
And then steal his fucking PSVR.
And then punch them in their face and steal the PSVR.
Okay, wow, that's. I thought we were just gonna go attack their butts.
I was just gonna ask to borrow it. Jesus,
cut off their butts. We need them to craft new PSVRs.
How do you cut off a butt? Okay, don't answer that question.
You gotta play Monster Hunter.
Yeah, Monster Hunter teaches you exactly how to do that. And let me tell you, first you get behind the bud for an hour.
Step 1, you get behind the butt. Step 2, do you have an hour? Because that's how long it's going to take.
I've seen some videos that started like that, and that's not where they ended up.
Well,
that's all I'm going to say.
Just didn't play enough video games this year, Merv.
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm looking at my list. I finished 14 video games.
That's pretty good, actually. That's pretty good.
14 new video games. So I finished some older video games. I finished Hellblade this year.
Oh, there you go. I did. I will never do that.
It's not a good game. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I only finished. I'm looking like compared to last year. I think I finished. Let me look this up. Just give me a second. I finished last year. 22 new games.
Oh. Wow.
You're way behind your pace.
Just for comparison's sake.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
you're getting old, man.
Did you play a lot of indie games by choice, or you didn't have time for AAA, or like?
I just did not have time for AAA. Like, okay, let me put it this way. I started the new Digimon RPG back in January when it came out, and I'm still playing that game now.
Yeah.
So I've just been super, super busy this year for personal reasons. So, like, the only AAA game that I finished this year there are two that I finished this year. One was Mario Tennis Aces. I guess you'd call that a AAA game.
Yeah.
I finished single player campaign. And I finished Yakuza 6, and that's it.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I guess if that's a big part of it, you know, if you're being able to play in bite-sized chunks, maybe it makes more sense. But yeah, man, it's right now. It's like every game feels like it requires an investment, and that is why I'm so big into cheating in video games.
Nice.
Honestly, hey, you want me to grind for money? Nope. Here's the code. Give me money. You know, so that's been my shortcut. But I understand where you're coming from because every game now, you know, we talked a lot about games as service, I think last year, and it seems like it's only becoming more when you're starting to talk about, I love how these games are doing these drips of content, but they're not doing it to be nice. They're doing it to lock you into that game for as long as possible, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have have the time to play Red Dead Redemption for like 80 hours. No way.
Yeah.
See, I say I don't have the time, but then I'm looking at my Switch profile and it says I've spent over 80 hours in Mario Tennis Aces. Just I haven't even played the multiplayer. It's still just single player. Be fucking around with
What?
it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so that just goes to show you. I mean, also, to be fair, I spent most of the first few months of this year playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which came out last year. So that took up a lot of time as well. So that kind of explains why I didn't finish that much this year. But on the whole, I think it's been an interesting year, and I'm excited to see what 2019 holds, because just looking ahead at what's coming up. Let me pull up my list. There's so many games.
First of all, you got Anthem right out the gate. I think that's February, right?
Yeah.
Crackdown 3, I'm interested in. I wasn't, because I thought it was going to be vaporware. I'm getting more and more interested in it. You've got that. What's that zombie game for PlayStation?
Oh yeah.
The one that looks worse
Days
and worse
Gone?
every time I see.
Days Gone.
Yeah.
Who's the fucking market
I
for
don't
Days
know.
Gone?
I don't know.
I don't know.
How
It's
cool does
weird.
Rage 2 look, though? I didn't think anybody was going to be interested in Rage 2. Now that looks awesome.
I don't give a shit about it.
Yeah, I still am
Sorry.
kind of lukewarm on it.
What's you got Cyberpunk? That's
Cyberpunk is
2077?
not coming out.
That might not be coming out till 2020. Let's
Yeah.
be real. That would actually be really cool if it came out in 2020, because the original franchise was Cyberpunk
Yeah,
2020.
that's maybe what they're planning for, but I don't know. CD
Yeah.
Projekt 2022, my guess.
a lot of interesting stuff though down the pipe in 2019. Be interested to see where some of them goes, because it seems like finally I'm not seeing a lot of 2s or 3s in some of these games that they're coming around to next year. So hopefully that kind of keeps up.
January, I'm interested in Resident Evil 2 remake. One of
Oh
my
no.
favorite games. Resident Evil
Also
2.
coming out in January, and it's supposed to have come out like 3 years ago, Y2K, a postmodern RPG. That's finally coming
there you
out.
go.
Yeah, the hipster RPG.
Sure. Oh, Sekiro
Yeah, so-
also comes out in
Is
2019.
it Shenmue 3 too, right? You guys are still interested in it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Who gives a shit about fucking Shenmue?
Apparently people enough to kickstart it. Why would you? I mean,
Yo, fucking Sony swindled all you motherfuckers, okay? Just
I
like,
get Kickstarter.
they could have funded that fucking game, and they chose not to.
It's hilarious to
them.
me that people were
Fuck
like,
Sony.
I got to get out there and kickstart it. And they're like, wait, this is being produced by Sony. Like, what am I kickstarting? Like,
You fucking pre-ordered a game that was 3 years
yeah,
out.
that's hilarious. If that even comes out. But yeah, that'll be interesting. There's a lot of good stuff right out the gate, and then it kind of gets quiet, and then there's a lot of who knows when it's coming out past probably like April. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at my huge list right now, and just to give some highlights, Biomutant's coming out next year. Basically the Redwall RPG. It looks like a fucking Redwall RPG.
It's got a lot of cool stuff to it too. I liked what I played of that.
Oh, nice. What else is coming out next year? Possibly Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh yeah,
That looked pretty nice.
That looks-
In the Valley of the Gods. That
New Mortal
which we mentioned
Kombat?
earlier. Oh yeah, New Mortal Kombat. That's a thing. The new Platinum game, Grand Blue Fantasy, probably coming out next year. What else?
in the Valley of the Gods we talked
Or
about
in
that
the Will
earlier.
of the Wisps.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's gonna. I'm I loved Ori and the Blind Forest, aside from some really frustrating sections. So I'm excited to see what they do with Will of the Wisps. Psychonauts 2 is coming out, and I'm really stoked for that. And also, sorry, go ahead.
They're also rebooting the Settler series again, which
nice.
I'm kind of interested to see where it goes.
Oh, nice. Oh, I really like Settlers 2, and then nothing after that.
Most people are kind of like, why did it start to get all like really cartoony and like more about like the supply economics of it? So it'll be interesting to see if they go back down that gate rather than being all goofy with controlling mining operations for whatever reason. But yeah.
Two more games I wanted to mention. They're coming out next year. One is Judgment, which is made by the Yakuza team, but now you're playing as a detective, and now you can jump. It's got traversal.
Wow.
So
innovative.
Yeah. So it looks really good. It looks like a nice mix of LA Noire and Yakuza.
Yeah, sure.
And I've always maintained that LA Noire was a fundamentally good game marred by some poor design and story decisions. I'm interested to see what they do with this. And also the most anticipated title of 2019, Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah, that does look pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't go with Psychonauts 2. I thought that would be a Merve game, but I don't know.
I mentioned
you did?
it.
Okay, good.
But
you did say
it can't compare to fucking Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah.
Okay, Psychonauts 2 is like you can't see me, but imagine I'm putting my hand just above my head, and imagine I'm standing up now and I'm on my tippy toes and putting my hand way up there. That's my anticipation for Untitled fucking Goose Game.
I pre-ordered Untitled Goose Game in my mind.
You can pre-order that shit?
No, you can't.
The one I'm probably most excited for, but most worried about, is going to be Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I mean, I got a lot of fond memories of that game, and 1 and 2, that is. It's a Switch-only game, though, so I'm kind of like, I don't know, a little nervous about it. That's a big title to only be on the Switch. But it's Ninja Theory, so who knows? Maybe it'll come over to everywhere else, but interested in that one.
Oh, if it's Ninja Theory, then they're doing it like they're bought by Microsoft now, so it's eventually going to come to Xbox.
The other one I'm curiously optimistic about is, back to my saying I love pirate games, is Skull and Bones.
Skull and Bones.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I want to see where that one ends up, because if it ends up being a ship MOBA, I'm out. If it ends up being something a little bit more, I'm probably still in. I'm really hoping it has some kind of campaign or solo or co-op or something, because I'm not gonna.
I just want like a good pirate RPG, because the Raisin series is fucking garbage.
It's so easy to do. God,
why has nobody done this?
I don't know.
Like, what are people waiting for? Everybody fucking loves pirates.
Like, look, Sid Meier fucking nailed it. That's it.
He nailed it. He fucking nailed it.
You dance with the governor's daughter.
Who's playing fucking Sid Meier's Pirates in 2018?
Yeah.
He was like, let me show you how it's done. And nobody from that point onward was like, okay.
Can't fucking top
that's it. That's
what do you expect us to do? You dance with the governor's daughter and you avenge your family. That's it. It's all it is to be a pirate.
Yep.
Yeah, no, the Risen games...
And, like, all these pirate franchises, like... You know, Monkey Island is never. There's never going to be another Monkey Island game because Disney fucking sucks.
But like 3 Monkey Island games, great games. Just those 3 games, fantastic, pretty great.
I mean, there's also Tales of Monkey Island.
But that's more of a comedy. But
fuck you, it's good.
I want to bring up.
Not into them, but like the 3 first games, fantastic.
I want an RPG though. I want to control who's on my ship. I want to, drink higher quality grog to fight better. Gives me a buff. I want all that stuff.
You know what I want, and it's never going to happen, but I still want it. Dragon Age 4 set off the coast of Ravenna and Tiva, and you're playing as a fucking pirate.
Yeah, Isabel, you can be one of her crew.
Yeah,
from there.
Yeah, cool. I would fucking pay $120 for that shit. Yeah. Okay, so like.
Maybe
put it out
not
there,
if the current BioWare makes, because I don't trust them. I don't trust them.
I'm sending an email right now to the
I don't
doctors.
trust current BioWare either, but like...
Dear doctors, Merve will pay $120.
Yeah, come back, Ray Mizuka and other guy.
The doctors are busy with their own stuff right now.
Yeah, they're brewing beer.
They've got their own... One of them's making beer now. Yeah, so... the other thing they should make is Jade Empire 2, but it's not.
Nah, that ain't gonna happen.
All right. So, anything else you guys wanted to mention about video games?
Good year. We'll have to do a New Year's one, but I think that was a pretty good year for games. I think.
2019
Yeah,
will be great. I can feel it. I can feel it. I can already feel it.
Yeah, I might actually have time to play video games next year. That'll be good.
Yeah.
So
Quit your job.
we'll
Play
see how
video
that
games
goes.
Maybe you get some subscribers, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
we
make
just
the
have to
podcast
like
blow up.
really go into like advertising on this podcast.
Quit
Like,
our job.
Yeah, so thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this podcast.
Saying this for years. Casper mattress, please send me a mattress. God damn it, send me a mattress. I don't have a mattress anymore. I need a mattress.
I'll take some MeUndies. I'm not picky.
I need a mattress.
Whenever I need to send a letter, I go to stamps.com.
Oh, there. Yeah. Whenever I need to shave, I shave with the.
The only time I go
shave.
to the post anymore is to pick up my delicious blue apron.
Oh, there.
You get it delivered to a fucking post office box.
I'll be there. Don't
They
worry.
should do that. They should have PO boxes. They're like mini ovens.
Yeah.
So you like pull the food out, and it's like, here's a fucking roast, all prepared for you.
That's Butcher Box, I think. Also, like
Uh,
that one.
you imagine just like forget to pick it up for a week.
They just send you meat. They just send you meat over mail. What the fuck?
What is that? What's that steak company? What's it called? That sends the meat through the
Omaha
mail?
Butcher
Steaks.
Box.
Omaha Steaks.
Oh
That's
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Also, yeah.
I get
There's
those from my
both.
dad like every Christmas. I know pretty well. Like, hey, old man.
Hey, your dad loves
here's
steak
some
and a good steak.
Yeah.
Okay. The point is, we need money. So
Yeah. Pay us.
come on, hit us up.
We can quit our jobs and play video games all the time.
Yes.
I like my job.
Now your job is playing video games, and you
Yeah,
don't
Merv,
like it.
don't ruin this for the rest of us.
Come on, Merv. Fall in line.
Fine. I'll quit my job that I like and play video games all
There
day
you go.
long.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So if you folks would like to keep up to date with the podcast, we have a website, avocadogamescast.wordpress.com. We post each episode. We have a link dump. You can fact check all the nonsense we say. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes or Google Play Music. Just search for Avocado Gamescast. And also make sure you check out the community that spawned this podcast, The Avocado, at the-avocado.org. Don't actually type the word hyphen. That would be really stupid. And you're not a moron, are you?
Oh, jeez. Really fast.
Yeah, I insulted the audience so much. I called them stupid.
You're not
for...
dumb, are you?
Yeah, you're not dumb. You're not the kind of person who kickstarted Shenmue 3, are you?
Kickstart Shenmue 3, did you? If you did, forget about what I just
If
said.
you did, don't fucking listen to our podcast,
Get the fuck
dumbass.
out of here.
God, no, sorry, we love you. Please
Hey,
listen
if
to
you're
our
a
podcast.
sponsor, dude, sponsor.
Especially if you work for Blue
Exactly.
Apron and you
You
kickstarted
love-
Shenmue 3,
Oh man.
we would love to have your support.
We love your product also. Jeez Louise, it's the best.
Yeah, we're gonna have
Oh, yeah,
to put a
fucking
warning
love
at the
that
front of this.
Blue
Like, if you back Shenmue 3, let's just skip it.
Nah. Seriously,
Okay,
though,
that's entirely my fault.
seriously, though, if you love Shenmue 3, just you live your life. You know,
Yeah,
chase
I'm-
this.
I'm just gonna imagine that most of those people can't figure out how to click play on a.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I thought we would get like letters
Yeah.
before. We are going to get letters now.
Yeah, we'll get letters from people who aren't Randy
Yeah.
Pitchford. They'll
Look
actually
at
be mad.
fucking letters with anthrax in them.
Okay, that's a little
Yeah.
much.
So,
All right, let me just conclude with a message to our listeners, just to close out the year.
Just ease
Um,
it in. You just chill out a little bit, yeah.
Like ease in the anthrax. What?
What?
Do you, like ease the anthrax up into the butt? Is that what you're saying?
What are you saying to me? What? No, I'm just saying we just gotta cool it at the end, like just kind of like just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and like all the best.
Happy New
shit.
Year, anthrax in the butt,
No,
all that
geez,
nonsense.
Stop
Okay,
about the anthrax in the butt. We just
I don't know how you
What
play
are you-
Monster Hunter
what are
World.
you
Maybe you
doing
put
on
the anthrax in the
your-
I
butt.
feel
and
like
see
it
through
was
the
a pretty
monsters.
accurate description. If anybody disagrees with that, I
about the anthrax in the butt. What?
yeah, no, the Monster Hunter part. But yeah,
It's like-
Ah, okay.
It's like a suppository, except for it's poison instead of medicine.
Jesus.
God You're the one who plays the butt game.
I play the butt game
Don't turn
for
this around on
purely
me.
scientific reasons.
Yeah, scientific butts. I thought science was bad.
Science is
good?
great when it's about butts. It's butt science. I love it.
Okay. Proctology, the best
That is
science. So let me just conclude with a message to our listeners. We've been doing this for a while now. We've been doing this for 2.5 years. And it's been a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie and say we couldn't have done this without your support, because I could gather people to just talk about video games on Skype and record podcasts that no one listens to. But it wouldn't be fun.
Don't we already
right?
do that,
Because
kind of?
people actually do listen to this
I'm
podcast.
just
Like,
kidding.
you can see the download numbers.
Yeah.
And, like, some of the episodes have over 100 downloads, which is
Jesus.
weird.
That's horrifying.
So, knowing that we're making something you folks enjoy actually let me be really sappy for a second. It's kind of like the best holiday gift I could receive, just knowing that people are out there listening to this and enjoying this. So, I want to say sincerely, thank you for listening to this podcast, and happy holidays. See y'all in 2019.
Yeah.
Anthrax in the butt.
Bye. Anthrax to the
Bye.
butt. The last message of 2019. Bye.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow.